Hello, good evening and welcome ladies and gentlemen to another round of frantic racing action in the UK Sim Racing Community's GT3 League Season 15 as brought to you on the premier sim racing platform available only on PC known as iRacing and proudly sponsored by the virtual racing school that's VRS. We make our way deeper into the second half of the season. Rounds are running out, but points are still readily available, and we make our way today to Brazil for round 7 of 10 in the championship with the Interlagos circuit playing host. Also known in full as the Autodromo Jose Carlos Pache, this circuit is no stranger to the dangers of drama when it comes to brilliant racing action, whether it be closed or open wheel racing, and whether it's been at the site of a Formula 1 season finale for many a year, or alternatively Brazilian stock car. There's been plenty of battling which has decided championship crowns year in year out here in Brazil, and we look forward to seeing how it's going to potentially define the championship campaigns today for our gallant drivers. Whilst it may not be the season finale round per se, indeed we've got 3 more rounds after today, this anti-clockwise Brazilian course located in the city limits of São Paulo City, the capital city in the capital state of the country of São Paulo, well, it is a circuit that definitely is going to be putting a capital letter on our potential championship contenders in terms of their points they can score and how high they can go before the season concludes. But where are my manners? Allow me to welcome you to this post-round broadcast from circuit side, live on air today, and you're tuning in right now via one of 2 media platforms for your viewing pleasure. Firstly, you can be tuning in via the official UK Sim Racing YouTube channel, and you can be joining the good company there of Alex Brown, for example, who we say good evening to, and also there to Connor DM Craven, who we say good evening to as well. And I hope you guys are doing well, and to everybody tuning into the YouTube chat, I hope you're all doing fantastic, well, and all set for the racing today. And of course, the UK Sim Racing YouTube channel, if you go to youtube.com and search for UKSR or UK Sim Racing, you'll find us there. But wait, if you're not on YouTube, you could be tuning in right now alternatively via Twitch at twitch.tv/UK Sim Racing. And welcome to you guys and girls tuning in via Twitch. Don't be shy, feel free to say hi, and I hope you're doing well regardless of where you're tuning in from today as we get set for a brilliant round of racing. In the commentary booth, you have myself. My name is Paul Walsh, also known as TX11 or Britain a Spit, depending on what media you follow me on. And I'll bring you all your racing action as it unfolds over the entirety of the season. And just to remind you, this is a post-round broadcast. The racing itself occurred as of yesterday evening on Sunday, the 10th of August 2025, but we're bringing it to you as if it were live this Monday, the 11th of August 2025. That means here in the commentary booth, we do not know what happens, whether it be in the final practice warm-up session, which is currently ongoing, alternatively, when we go into qualifying in just approximately 10 minutes time, or when we do go to the grid for our one and only race today, all that is completely unknown to us, and it's going to be as close as possible to the raw live experience for you guys and girls tuning in at home. And as always, we do ask that if you do happen to know the result, if you do happen to know what happens over the race distance or in any part, we ask that you avoid any potential spoilers in our chats, not just for us in the commentary booth, but also for the guys and girls tuning in at home, for it is their first time seeing this, and indeed they want it as close as possible to the raw live viewing experience. But as we make our way then deeper and deeper into the campaign, well, let's take a look at our calendar and what still lies in wait. So it's round 7 then, and we have our second round of the UK Sim Racing Challenge Cup. The Cup, of course, where drivers score points based on their class finishing position and their results, and all those points are added together over the final 5 rounds and compared versus their rivals across all the different classes. And come the end of the season, we will be crowning a Challenge Cup champion, as we will our class champions in the Drivers' Championships overall, and also we will be declaring our team's champions as well. And the UK Sim Racing Challenge Cup, keeping things alive and keeping things interesting as we go into the second half of the season, and making sure that we don't get hit by the fatigue of what is a long season-long campaign. But last time out in round number 6, we're at the circuit in the Magny-Cours, and in France, there's plenty of story to talk about there on the 3rd of August, but after today, we'll be making our way back to the United States of America for Road America, a 3rd and final visit to the US of A on the 17th of August there. We'll bring the curtain down the race in the US of A, no doubt about it, but then we'll make our way across the Atlantic and back to the United Kingdom for the 2nd and final time this season in round number 9 of the Silverstone Grand Prix circuit. And from the home of British motorsport, we'll make our way to Germany, not quite for the Nürburgring Nordschleife, but instead for the Nürburgring Grosspreisstrecke, and that'll be around 10 of 10 on the 31st of August. We'll bring the curtain down at the infamous endurance racing circuit. But as we get set to go into today, let's talk a little bit about our circuit. Because of course it is the Grand Prix layout of the Interlagos circuit, nicknamed Interlagos in reference to the fact the circuit sits between 2 lakes along with the neighbourhood of the São Paulo city in which it resides. Indeed, São Paulo city broken up into multiple districts and with multiple neighbourhoods. But Interlagos is the host neighbourhood within the city of São Paulo, Brazil, and as the drivers roar the way around here, well, big thank you to iRacing.com, not just for their brilliant simulator, but also the fantastic track maps captured within it, and of course we get to see this track map here. However, a 2-dimensional track map does not quite define how much elevation change is crammed into this circuit, as it weaves and winds its way around the local hilly terrain of Brazil, and therefore it's definitely one of those circuits whereby it is gruelling lap after lap, as our drivers will have to contest with 15 corners, many of them packing with variety as well, and many of them involving camber changes from entry all the way to exit, and therefore for our drivers it's all going to be about finding the best balance on the car, as well as having the best confidence to attack each and every corner. Where it'll be the left into right are the centre S's at turns 1 and 2, the long run through Curva del Sol at turn number 3, where it'll be flat out on warm tyres and low tanks of fuel, and as they make the way down the Retroposta straight, we can expect plenty of battling into turn number 4. But coming out to the Cida do Lago, they'll make the way through the double left to turns 4 and 5, with turn 4 always catching drivers out if they're a little bit too eager on the brakes early on, because you need to go as late as possible in there, as otherwise you'll find yourself getting caught out by the off-camber nature. But carry the camber well, and they'll make the way all the way out towards turns 6 and 7 through the double right-hander, and then in towards the hairpin section of turns 8, 9 and 10, where it's all about being late on the brakes, heavy on the brakes as well, but also dealing with the fact that particularly at Penahirio at turn number 9, it's a corner that's completely downhill and you want to stay nice and tight to that apex curve. But as they exit out to turn number 10, the low-speed corner in the circuit, will then be for the gruelling Magulo corner at turn number 11, downhill but flat out all the way, as they then head towards Juncao at turn number 12, and get it right there and get it right on the accelerator, and they'll be flat out all the way through turns 13, 14 and 15, as they head towards the timeline, only to do it all over again. And that'll be just one lap of many here in Brazil. But a reminder of the rules, because we can't go racing without them. And this is an open setup series with fuel loads restricted to 60% for all races, including today. Qualifying-wise, a closed qualifying format shall be used, with drivers having 4 flying laps available, plus, of course, their outlap. As for the race, it will commence by a double-fold rolling start, as is the tradition of the UK Sim Racing GT3 League, with there being one mandatory pit stop for fuel, but changing tyres is entirely optional. Each driver with one fast repair available, and the driver shall receive a drive-through penalty if they accumulate 20 or more instant points. If they do end up in an instant with another driver, all race stewarding shall be conducted post-race, so long as the drivers submit it as a protest. But that's all with regards to our rules. But before we quite go back to circuit side, a quick reminder that each and every week, each and every round, our title sponsor VRS, a big thank you to them, will be giving away in collaboration with them VRS competitive subscriptions to our entrants. And each round will be given away via separate raffle draws, a 3-month subscription, a 2-month subscription and a 1-month subscription. And to be eligible, all our drivers have got to do, they've got to take to the grid and get underway with the race. And so long as they take to the grid and launch off the line, they will be eligible to be drawn for a gift prize, so long as they haven't won it in a previous round. We'll be announcing our giveaway winners after the racing concludes, and that'll be done live on air. But enough rules, regulations and giveaways and everything in between, we're all here for the racing, so let's head back to circuit side and talk a little bit about our schedule for tonight. Times in British Summer Time, that's BST, or Silkwane Time +1, UTC +1, and as we can see, in approximately 5 minutes, we'll be heading into our qualifying session. 10 minutes in duration, the outlap plus 4 flying laps, plenty of time for our drivers to get those laps in, and it could be important to get themselves right to the front of the field, or their respective class at least, as they'll then look to try and charge away to victory. As for our race, that will commence immediately afterwards at 8 this evening, 60 minutes in duration like all of our races this season. And we're track temperature currently of 21 degrees centigrade, ambient at 20 degrees centigrade. It's relatively cool for this time of year in Brazil, with a bit of cloud, a bit of sunshine. Oh my goodness, I don't know who that is into the wall going on the start-finish straight, but that's not how you're going to turn number 1, and I believe that might have been a Ford Mustang of some description of a big moment there. Couldn't quite see who it was, but they've towed away. Well, we are set and ready to go for today, and as we get set and ready to go, well, let's give you a little bit of a recap then of the story from Magny-Cours and talk about some of our drivers. And indeed, speaking about some drivers, we've got some drivers who are back on the grid today we haven't seen them for some time, including this man, Austin William Campbell, for Effect Simulations, who we have not seen out there for an elongated period of time, but it's very good to see the Mercedes AMG Evo 2020 driver in the number 555 out there looking to give it his all, and it's not quite the same when we don't have William Campbell on the grid. But starting off with our elite class, of which is one of the many elite drivers out there, well, for Daniel Stasuk, it was not a day to celebrate on the circuit de Magny-Cours. His lead has been reduced to 13 points, given the fact for the first time this season he did not finish on the podium, let alone take the win. And indeed, every round he's been in, all 4 rounds up to that point, he'd taken 4 wins. But in his 5th round, he didn't quite take a podium, let alone a win, and instead, his main rival, Pavel Dolezal, the man who did take a victory and has made it back-to-back wins, well, here he is in his own Paceworks Esports Mercedes. Well, he is the man right now who's on a charge and with a plan, and he'll be looking to try and work with teammate James Powsland to continue that magic. In the Pro class, meanwhile, Ruben Berings added another perfect score to his campaign. There is the CDK Racing Team driver. The number 91 driver right now cannot stop winning. He can't stop being perfect, it must be said, in the Pro class, in that Porsche 992 at GT3. And what can he do today? Because right now he is charging off into the distance, and with an 11-point advantage, despite the pressure that was mounted to him by Tractix Racing's pair of Krista Halsoy and Daniel Shillcock. Well, the one thing about this man is whenever either the Tractix Racing drivers get a little bit closer in terms of pace, suddenly he just finds a way to dig in deep and go even quicker. He always finds a way to find a little bit of extra time out there, and Ruben Berings right now really proven to be the man who seems to be unbeatable in Pro class, but we will have to wait and see whether that will continue and whether he'll founder a legacy. In the AM class, meanwhile, well, we have the promotion of Ruben Berings from AM to Pro, as on the circuit Magny-Cours. It does mean a little bit of a power gap opened up, as we do see the member of the Breck family here in the Audi R8 LMS Evo 2. And in terms of who now leads the AM class, well, it is none other than Cranleigh-Swash, who is leading the way. He's parked up in the pit lane. There he is, behind the catch fence in the lovely Pigeon Racing Ford Mustang. And he is now your championship leader, because despite missing out on victory versus none other than Nathan Anstice, he was second. He was very close behind Anstice all the way to the finish line, and he's been able to keep a 6-point advantage over the man who had it all go wrong for him. Old dudes in cars, Darren Sharples, where he really was not at the sharp end of the class, unfortunately. Things just did not click together at Magny-Cours. Indeed, for many a driver at Magny-Cours, it did seem as though fortunes went against those who've really been the favourites so far this season. Whether in Elite or 30 AM, not quite so in Pro, but in the AM class at least, Cranleigh-Swash proving that consistency really has been the one thing that keeps him at the front of the field. However, with that in mind, we do also have to consider that in the rookie class, well, it was not quite 3 wins in a row last round for Alistair Murray, but we did see a bit of a change-up with regards to the run of form. Luke Checker being one of the many drivers who was there. We only had 4 drivers, in fact, take to the grid at the Magny-Cours circuit in the rookie class. And the name that led the way, well, for the first time this season, he finally took a win. It was none other than, I believe, unless I'm very much mistaken, and I'm surely not going to be mistaken, it was Richard Jones of Slow and Steady Racing, who on the 6th time of trying finally landed that maiden win. Unfortunately, he's not in the car in the pit lane, otherwise we would point the camera towards him, but indeed we are looking instead to the Ferrari 296 Luke Checker right now, who continues to try and move forward. But the main championship contention is between Alistair Murray and BJ Alvarez, and I can tell you that BJ Alvarez is here. What about Alistair Murray? Meanwhile, he's also here, and he's currently the fastest of the rookies. Here is Darren Giacovelli, meanwhile, as he tootles his way on down through turn number 9 in the number 30 car there. He's one of our slower drivers at the moment, but there's still plenty of time out. Let's find time, particularly given we're in practice right now. We're not in qualifying, but it's not long, but we do head to qualifying. And, well, we do say hello to a few more of you in the YouTube chat. We've said hello recently, including Sir Bottlejob, Jack Barker in the YouTube chat, if you want to say hi to him. Our AM driver, who's currently one of the faster AM drivers out there, although not quite as fast as Hendrik Zilka. The Venari Racing driver had a phenomenal debut in the AM class and took his first podium of the season, his debut in the Circuit de Magny-Cours circuit, and he did a fantastic job there. And what can he do today? Because it does look as though it's going to be the battle of the 2 Acura drivers here, with Darren Sharples and a McLaren being the interloper. Well, for all that and more, it's time to head into qualifying, ladies and gentlemen. 10 minutes. Who's going to put it on pole? We'll be back very shortly to find out. And it is go, go, go for qualifying. 10 minutes starts to tick away as quickly as you can call it, and immediately all the drivers will pile out the pit lane as fast as they can. Now, why is there a bit of urgency here today with regards to qualifying? Well, we did say 10 minutes is plenty of time to try and get the best possible lap in, and we're not expecting the weather to evolve at any point. We're expecting relatively stable conditions. No sign of rain on the horizon, which is normally the reputation of the Brazilian circuit, is that rain somehow magically finds its way to interfere with the racing, but not quite so today. The reason why you're going to have this bit of a mad rush is the fact the lap time around here being the best part of 1.5 minutes. Well, it's a relatively quick lap. However, the flip side of the coin being when you are on a warm-up lap around here, if you're going to take it slowly, because there's a lot of uphill sections, you actually have a very long warm-up lap, or at least what is a preparation lap does take a long period of time, and particularly if you're investing multiple laps to try and get the tyres in the zone, you'll find it is a bit costly, and mistakes around here as well are very easy to make, so I try to be very keen to get as much tyre temperature as possible. But we also say hello there to Private Mess in the YouTube chat, as well as Cable1512, who says, made it to live broadcast this time, glad to have you with us, Cable, and all the happier for it. I see the smiley face there. We also say hello to Jordan Jones, who continues his battle all season long in the rookie class with the fellow Richard Jones in the battle to be the Supreme Jones. They're not related by blood or family, I can tell you that, ladies and gentlemen. They both share the same surname, and therefore it's the game of keeping up with the Joneses, if you will, as there Jordan Jones almost getting it slightly wrong coming out of turn number 9, but a very easy mistake to make there, being very loud with the throttle pedal too soon. But he gets it back together there in the Porsche 992. We also say hello there to Anstice Races, that's Nathan Anstice, and also say hello to Darren Sharples, who says, this is going to be fun to watch. Oh, I'm looking forward to it indeed. I must admit, ladies and gentlemen, I always have a great Monday, because no matter how bad my day is in my day job, as soon as I get behind the microphone here and cover the UK Sim Racing GT3 League, it makes all the troubles and worries of life completely disappear away, because the racing is always incredible here, no doubt about it. But all is A-OK here in the content booth, and we're okay to go on to our first flying laps from our drivers, as we can see Jordan Jones makes his way across that timeline. But as he does, we also look to James Ibrahim for the Effect Simulations team, the man who, of course, a master of the LMP2, as we did see in Season 3 of the UK Sim Racing Multiclass League, in the end just finishing slightly behind his teammate and rival all season long, but to be fair, in a season-long campaign that was dominated by twists and turns and by margins as so marginal, and the fact that you could already cut the tension with a knife. Well, right now, James Ibrahim really has been getting to terms with the GT3 machine and his Lamborghini Huracan Evo, and right now he may not be the fastest driver out there in Elite, or indeed in a good number of our classes, but he's enjoying himself out there all the same, and it's a big learning experience for him. And you may be asking, well, why is he in Elite then if he's not quite on the pace of the rest of the Elite field? Well, it's based on IR rating and previous season performances at UK Sim Racing, and he was assigned to Elite, and he's learning every lap he turns, and we look forward to seeing what he's going to be able to do. But as Daniel Stasuk heads towards the timeline for NJB Performance, we're expecting a very strong lap to start off this qualifying session, and he puts a 31.411 in there, and that goes to show you that Stasuk immediately ascending to the top of the tower. However, we can imagine there's been more laps to come as Palsen there immediately responds and go 900 behind him, but that is a very close margin, as in the Pro class, well, it's a Berings 1-2 for the first flying laps to come on in, with Brett Berings conveniently going ahead of Ruben Berings. Well, in fact, they equal each other's lap times there. My good lord. Well, I think, well, hopefully we're not going to see a situation unlike Jerez. I can't remember what year of the Formula 1 Grand Prix it was, where we had 3 drivers using the exact same lap time in qualifying, and in the end it came down to the first driver who set the time. But the reason why Brett Berings is ahead of Ruben Berings is because he's just set the time slightly earlier than Ruben Berings. If so, that's going to be incredibly close between them, because that pace is absolutely dead even. But rolling the one around, and we also say hello there to Hendrik Zilka, also to Sean Cranleigh-Swash, and to Luke Checker, and I see Cable clarifying that is Daniel there, and I believe that is Daniel Stasuk, unless I'm mistaken. There are quite a few Daniels here, I must admit, so I do apologise if I've assumed you're the incorrect Daniel, as we do look to the Tractix racing machine of Daniel Shillcock. Now, let's talk a little bit about Daniel Shillcock and indeed Tractix Racing. We said only moments ago that if they find a 10th or 2, suddenly Ruben Berings finds a 10th or 2. It really is the challenge right now with Tractix Racing. Have got to find a way to put a dent into the charge of the Berings machinery, because it does seem as though the number 91 in the Pro class in the Porsche is pulling away with that championship crown. And we'll do keep in mind there are 2 drop scores over the course of the season. They are being accounted for now with regards to the points from this point onwards, but it is Tractix Racing who've got to try and take the initiative and swing things back. Well, if he puts a lap time like that, he will, but now it looks so there. Ruben Berings and Daniel Shillcock matching each other, and Brett Berings a little bit faster by comparison, but very little between them, as I think our timing towers decide to have a bit of a glitchy moment, but that can happen every so often. But as the drivers continue around here, it is incredibly tight between them as they all continue to pump their laps in, and it goes to show you how many drivers are getting it absolutely spot on here. But right now, it looks like Brett Berings is faster than Ruben Berings, and well, you have to forgive what the time tower says. He is faster by the best part of what is there, a 100th is Brett Berings over Ruben Berings, but it does seem as our time tower deciding not to account for the 100 for some reason. Might be a rounding error, but everyone continues their way on around, and as they do, well, we're going to swing switch from looking at the individual class timings to the overall standings right now, and there you can see the deltas much more cleanly exhibited between them all. But I think what we also need to cleanly exhibit here is an on-board lap with one of our drivers, and well, we are waiting for a driver to come on around as Andrew Fairley makes one down there in his Ford Mustang. And well, right now the NJB performance driver was not quite in the happiest of places at Magny-Cours compared to some of his rivals. Neither was Daniel Stasuk, to be fair, but different circuits will suit different drivers each and every week, and indeed over the course of the season it always balances out because that's where you have a balanced performance. And right now on the balance, let's jump on board here with the Ford Mustang driver as he heads across the timeline and goes onto a flying lap. In towards turn number 1 he goes, hard on the brakes there, 150 metres to corner apex, trail braking down to second gear, nice and tight on the exit to swing the car to the right for the second part of the centre S's. Now all the way through the Curve del Sol, hanging it nice and tight and high on the apex curve. Flat out he goes, in 4th gear, very shortly hitting up into 5th gear with a short gear stack, and down over to the right hand side of the Retropostal, hanging the car. Looks at his brake mark on the right hand side, it'll be the 100 metre board, slams on the anchors here, and all the way down to 3rd gear, wait for it, and then feed the throttle in, uses all the circuit width and plenty more as he exits out through the curve of 5, and up the hill he goes in towards turn 6 and 7. Looks to his left hand side for his brake mark. It'll be approximately 50 metres from corner apex. Dab the brakes, get the weight over the nose, and just keep it tight. Wait for the car to understeer, and now build the throttle in as he goes onto the brakes there, down into turn number 8. We say down because he goes into the depression, over the rise, and now down into the decline as he comes through turn 9 in 2nd gear. Wait for it, get the throttle back in, and now heading out into turn number 10. Bring the car over to the outside, onto the brakes here, drops to 2nd gear. Nice tight approach to the apex there. You can go a little bit deeper, but I think fairly thin as though the car's pretty hooked up on the front end, and going down through Magula at turn number 11, flat out now as he heads in towards Juncal, onto the brakes, 75 metres of corner apex, down to 2nd gear, and now blast that throttle, or let the Coyote engine roar as he roars his way then upwards towards the timeline. And for Fairley, has this been an improving lap? Well, he's gone purple of everybody in the run through turn 10 through to 12, so therefore Fairley has got some time still in the lap, but what's the magic going to be here? Can he get himself on pole position? Here he comes towards the timeline, and Andrew Fairley crosses the line at 152 miles an hour, and he does it. He takes provisional pole ahead of Stuart Reynolds, but the Fury Sim Sport driver is still on a lap as the checker flag comes out for some other drivers out there. James Powson now goes to the top of the pile on a 30.669 ahead of Tomlinson Dennis, who squeezes his way into 2nd. William Campbell moves into 3rd. They're all improving. Meanwhile, in pro, it's still Ruben Berings ahead of Brett Berings. In rookie, Luke Checker has leapt his way into 21st. That's absolutely magical, but I can tell you that Luke Checker in the practice sessions early in the week was looking incredibly quick over the practice. He was really finding a lot of time. So Luke Checker on course for his maiden rookie pole position. And right now, Hendrik Zilka in the battle of the Acuras between himself and Jack Barker will make her ace, and are going to try and find another ace up their sleeve, because Zilka, I think, has done enough to take what will be am pole position. As he crosses the line, he knows he doesn't need to go any faster. Is anybody else out there on a faster lap? Well, Stuart Reynolds leaps up to 2nd place, right at the death of the session, with an absolutely golden lap on a 30.729. And well, as the last drive's coming through, we look to those class positions. Simon Bamber moves to 8th in the elite class. And I think that is going to be it, ladies and gentlemen, as we do see Matthew Sheraton rolling his way around. He's still got some laps available, but I don't think we're going to see anybody dethrone our potential pole sitter. In fact, hold up a second. Hold the phone. Peter Cox. Well, we haven't even introduced him, and indeed, he's back. It's been a long time since we've seen him on the grid at UK Sim Racing. You'd have to go all the way back to November 2023 for the last time the highly established veteran of the UK Sim Racing GT3 grids has been there, but he's made his return to the AM class as of this round. And right now, Peter Cox in the privateer Porsche 911 992 at GT3 is the fastest AM out there by a very slender margin, albeit that gap between himself and Zilka being half a tenth, if that, I believe. In fact, no, half a hundredth as he roars his way around. And as he does so, well, Peter Cox absolutely on fire there. A rookie, meanwhile, well, of course, Luke Checker the fastest. And we do need to give a shout out as well, because we do have the return of another name to the grid in the pro class, and Ryan Walker has returned for Alshoot at 3M Esports, your photographer for this series. Well, he's been enjoying taking the photos so much, he's been getting the itch to go from being behind the camera to being on the grid, and we look forward to seeing him absolutely give it his best. As into the pits comes BJ Alvarez, not happy with how qualifying's gone. I think the same could be said for many a driver, but that, ladies and gentlemen, is qualifying complete, and well, it's time to head to the grid for our one and only race today. So as our drivers make the way onto the grid, this is how they'll line up for round number 7 of the UK Sim Racing GT3 League Season 15, as sponsored by Virtual Racing School and brought to you on iRacing. James Powsland, in the end, takes pole position for Paceworks Esports and completely subverts expectations in the Mercedes AMG Evo, ahead of the Ford Mustang of Stuart Reynolds for Fury Simsport, who left it all late, but a little too late, some could say. Behind the two Britons, starting in third, it'll be Milton Tomlinson-Dennis for World of Racing with STR, his best qualifying points of the season. He'll be joined on row number 2 by Austin William Campbell for Effect Simulations. Andrew Fairley starts this one in 5th for MJB Performance, ahead of Nils Bocage for NJB Performance, his teammate alongside. Solpet Precision Racing's Tobias Kruken starts 7th, the German driver being joined by the Oceania driver of Simon Bamber for Effect Simulations Carbon. We'll then have your championship leader in the lead, starting 9th, Daniel Stasuk for MJB Performance. Things are not clicking together, but then again, what can he do in the 733? We know he's quick over race distance, if not in qualifying. His championship rival, Pavel Dolezal, starts 10th. That is completely unexpected. The two of them line up on the 5th row of the grid for Paceworks Esports there. My goodness, this could definitely be a bruising round for the pair of them if things don't go right. We will see. Alberto Gravelli starts alone for Effect Simulations as well. I'm not quite sure what's happened to this class, but I can tell you the elite class completely turned upside down. Ruben Berings will take your pole position in the pro class ahead of brother Brecht. The DDK with Race Anywhere driver out-qualifying the DDK with Digital Motor Art driver, but only in the end by 700. Daniel Shillcock starts 3rd for the pros on 14th overall for Tractix Racing, ahead of Old Dudes in Cars Casper Brotner, who starts 15th. Chance for Lepetz completes your 8th row for DDK with Race Anywhere, and then you have Xander Hill, 17th place for Tiki Simsport, ahead of Matthew Sheraton for Aztec Racing, who did it all on his final lap. James Ibram starts 19th for Effect Simulations Carbon, and his rise through the field continues, ahead of Nathan Foster, the privateer, who begins this one in 20th. Outside the top 20, we have Darren Norquette for Racing Forces 21st, ahead of Luke Checker, who gives him close company there. The rookie pole sitter to his first pole position in rookie class, well done to him. We then have Peter Cox, who takes the AM pole position, only in the end 200ths behind. That's how close it was, and well done to Peter on his return to the grid. He was ahead of Hendrik Zilka by the best part there of none other than a 10th, with the Venari Racing drive being followed up by Jack Barker for Made for Racing, a further 8 thousandths behind. Sight Anthony begins this one 26th for UK Sim Racing Price, ahead of Alistair Murray for UK Sim Racing Hill. You then have Sean Cranleigh-Swash 28th for Pigeon Racing, ahead of Krista Halsoy for Tractix Racing, and UK Sim Racing Price's Neil Kenyon who rounds off your top 30. Outside the top 30, we have Rob Windsor for UK Sim Racing Stewart, ahead of Darren Sharples for Old Dudes in Cars. With Richard Jones, he'll be taking 33rd on this grid for Slow and Steady Racing, ahead of Ryan Walker for Altitude 3M Esports. We then have BJ Alvarez starting 35th for Push of the Standard, ahead of Jordan Jones, with James Connolly starting 37th for UK Sim Racing Stewart, ahead of Dan Oliver Fox. 39th, it's Nathan Anstice for UK Sim Racing Hill, ahead of Alex Brown for Slow and Steady Racing. We've still got a few more to go, including on the penultimate row of the grid, Darren Giacomelli, who starts this one 41st, ahead of Nathan Scott for Swazi Gold and Empire Motorsport respectively. And last on our grid, Christopher Bates for LLA and Stuart Pearson for Slow and Steady Racing. Well, that is the formation lap almost coming to an end, ladies and gentlemen. We're not too far away from going green flag racing, and when we do, well, we've got the return of the counting timer in the top centre of your screen. We're improvising a little bit, but bear with us as James Powsland gets ready to take us for green flag racing for the 7th round of the championship. And can Powsland convert pole position into victory here at Interlagos? Well, we're only 60 minutes away and a pace lap from finding out. And it's lights out and away we go for James Powsland. He gets us underway here and he roars his way away, taking his way down towards turn number 1. Now as he does so here, what can Powsland do? Well, immediately he gets a good start as Milton Tomlinson-Dennis having to go around the inside to outside here to hold in position. There's drama early on immediately into opening couple of corners. Car pointing the wrong way. That's Nils Bocage who's been ejected out stage right. Not quite sure he's had anyone go with him. We had another car round as well. And who is that? That is Andrew Fairley. NJB Performance had a nightmare start and suddenly that's Alistair Murray being turned around. Well, some big names across our classes have all had drama. Meanwhile, coming down in towards turn number 4, well, that is going to be Stuart Reynolds and Milton Tomlinson-Dennis together as Austin William Campbell stays right behind them, ahead of Tobias Kruken and Daniel Stasuk. Where it looks so there, the elite class have been able to get away relatively unscathed, although we've got some drama early on between drives that we're going to have to dissect very quickly as we go deeper and deeper into this race. But Daniel Shillcock and Brett Berings already fighting, and Ruben Berings has leapt his way ahead of the pair of them, so he's been able to sneak his way ahead in the pro start. But further that, Peter Cox has had a lightning start. He's already up into 16th place. I don't know, he's managed to magic his way there. I suspect some of the drama rides at the start has caught out some drivers as well, but I can tell you one thing, that right now Peter Cox has had an absolute monster start to this race. But as all the drivers make the way around, we look back to Jack Barker. The man who's had literally no luck this season so far. Wherever he started, within 3 laps of the start of the race, he has been involved in a major incident of some description in all 6 rounds he's competed in. Hopefully we don't see that happen today. As Krista Halsoy, they're getting a little bit eager to try and take a peek up the inside. But look at this for eager. That is a Ferrari 296, a Luke Checker. And well, right now as he briefly disappears and he'll rematerialise on the ether surely, very shortly. If not, that's going to be heartbreak. Luke Checker, your rookie pole sitter right now, is enjoying an incredible start to this race, up to 21st. And he's claiming a place of a Cy Anthony, series organiser and fast driver in the pro class. But looking to Daniel Shillcock here, still battling with Ruben Berings up the inside. He's gone. Has he got it done? Yes, he has. Shillcock moves all the way up now into 2nd place in pros. We've got a lot of smoke kicking in front. I'm trying to see what that was. That was, well, no, Simon Bamber leaving the pits there. Not quite sure what's happened with Simon Bamber, but somebody's going very slow there. We're going to have to get a replay of what's happened there, because there's been some drama, albeit we didn't quite discern who and what, where and why it was. But as Darren Norquette trying to look around the outside of Zander Hill, well, Hill, they're going defence in the Tiki Sim Sport machine. And right now, Darren Norquette very eager to make an impression here, albeit I don't think he's going to be allowed to as they make the way on through. But these drivers right now carrying their way on. But all the way coming around, we do apologise for the timer there. Decided to take a bit of a pause. It will do that every so often as it decides to. As all the drivers continue the way around here. Definitely right now. Fantastic racing as that's going to be turning him sideways. And around has gone Darren Norquette there. It's been a nightmare for him. And with some major contact as Jack Barker avoids all the madness, as does Luke Checker. So these drivers able to avoid the drama at least for the time being, albeit Nathan Foster now trying to capitalise on the situation up the inside of 1, up the inside of 2. I think Checker was caught up there and has picked up some damage as a result, but Barker right now carried on. But behind them, the rookie field is getting closer. Murray, Jones and Daniel Oliver Fox, they're all quite close together here as they roar and store their way in towards the next few places. As we jump aboard here with Oliver Fox, riding on board with the man who started in 6th place in rookie, and he's gained 2 places already. Well, a bit of a poor exit there coming out of the left-hander of turn number 12, but right now Dan Oliver Fox continuing his way onwards in the number 159. I think he'll be hoping there's a little bit more to be gained before all is said and done, as we do see a new fastest lap in the rookie class from Dan Oliver Fox, 35.822, but James Conley goes even faster in the AM class, and that's why you're seeing their 2 timing towers decide to swap the places there in a bit of a fastest lap competition. But Dan Oliver Fox right now looking very quick, it must be said, but he's got to take his time here. This Ferrari, a car that loves to run behind other cars because it builds up a lot of speed in top gear, but he's got to try and find a way to make some moves as well. As we jump off of the rookie machine, the 159, and look a little bit further back still, we do have Hendrik Zilka here, who's had a bit of a nightmare start, albeit he's going to try and recover 1 place overall as he dives up the inside there of Jordan Jones. Jones there running a little bit deep and wide off the corner. He's not going to be too upset about that, hopefully, but definitely there a bit of a tricky one for Jones, but still plenty more to come, I'm sure, as he goes a bit deeper into this race. But roaring the way on around right now, all these drivers still together, and Zilka there as we see a lock-up from Darren Norquette just in front, and will be, oh my good lord, what on earth has happened there? Peter Cox has been caught up in drama. Well, he's turned it back around as Peter Cox, but I think that drama's going to eject him a long way down. He's missing a front bumper now for everything that's happened. It's been very dramatic. Alex Brown here battling right now in amongst the inside of Cox, Connolly and Pearson. Well, Alex Brown there decides to dive up the inside. Ever the opportunist is the youngster, and well, makes it count there in number 25. That was brave, but he moves up to the 6th in rookie class as BJ Alvarez here is now trying to find a way past Stuart Pearson, but he can't find a way through as the pink and black Porsche has to wait behind, and Nathan Anstice is close there with them. But as they make the way onwards, well, everything's been happening right towards the back of the field. What about the very front of the field? And we can see James Powelson right now, well, he's still powering his way onwards ahead of Stuart Reynolds and Milton Tomlinson-Dennis, as Tomlinson-Dennis still with him at least for the time being. And these drivers enjoying a good run at this time. How it does seem as though, at least for now, that these 3 settling down into a rhyme and rhythm as they continue to roar the way on around. But as they do so, well, we do seem to have lost our timer for a brief moment. Not quite sure what's happened there, ladies and gents. We do apologise. It will hopefully come back at some point. But it does seem to be a little bit temperamental at the moment, our online timer. We will see what we can do in terms of retrieving it later on, as Tobias Kruken, well, meanwhile battling there with Austin William Campbell, and Kruken trying to go inside to outside. Can he get it done? Well, it's always hard to go around the outside of Perrier corner at turn number 9. I don't think he's going to be able to quite get it done here as we jump on board, looking from the front bumper, the Solpec Precision racing car, and no way through at the moment. It does look as though he's just going to have to wait for an opportunity here, and nothing is quite forthcoming, but it's never easy, to be fair, in the racing around here at Interlagos, and that's why the wonderful challenges about the circuit, in the fact that it does make drivers have to work themselves absolutely to the limit as they continue to roll their way onwards. But right now, close, but not quite close enough to look for a move, but will he be able to go for it here in towards what will be turn number 1. Well, we're about to see as the Sole Precision racing car gets nice and close, tucked into the toe, and we're coming down towards the braking zone here, and, well, the answer is going to be no. Kruken has to wait and just watch as he wants to make an opportunity happen, but he's going to be needing a bit more perseverance if he wants to make it happen. But drivers heading around here, and everyone's still together. Further back, towards the back end of the top 10 of the Pro Class. Well, look at this. Matthew Sheraton in the very colourful Ford Mustang. Indeed, I am right now getting what would be very classic colourful vibes there of the red and white machine. Indeed, it feels like that's something that he's just picked up of the car lot, rather than with the Aztec Racing livery until you look on closer inspection. But I suspect that is a design decision, and I'm all for it in terms of praising them. We can see there, Krista Halsoy and Nathan Foster both very eagerly trying to poke their noses one way than the other, and I think Nathan Foster said at first, you know what, this is not going to work out, I'm going to tuck in, and then Krista went, well, if Nathan doesn't think it's going to work, I wonder if I can make it work, and then both realised, you know, that Ford Mustang has got too many legs of horsepower on the straight. So Cy Anstey, well, he just tucks in behind and watches. Well, from that, we've had more drama for Brett Bearings, who's had to tow to the pits. That's sent him all the way to the back of the order. So whatever's happened to our pro pole sitter, we will find out when we can. Indeed, it's not a happy day at the moment for Brett Bearings, and everybody looking absolutely to push onwards. But all the drivers right now going absolutely onwards as much as humanly possible. And we're down over Fox here. Meanwhile, well, he's enjoying that absolute ding-dong scrap here for 21st place versus Niels Bacage, who's trying to get himself back up the order after being ejected down it on that open lap incident. Now, speaking of that open lap incident, we do need to get a replay of some incidents from earlier on as Darren Norquette continues his way on around as well. All these drivers right now continue to push each other on around the circuit. And well, as they do, well, we see none other there than Darren Sharples, Ryan Walker and Hendrik Zilk all together. That's 3 wide coming through turn number 13. And, well, that's not normal, but they're going to get a go. Walker's in the middle of the road here. And right now, can the Mustang outperform the other two machines? Well, we'll have to see. McLaren on the inside there of Sharples, me on the outside. That's Hendrik Zilka and Ryan Walker, the pro, trying to split the two AM drivers. He's not going to be able to. Jordan Jones there places bets behind Sharples, goes a little bit deep under braking, but Walker sees it coming and gives him the space to breathe. But James Conley looks at the back of this as well and says, do you mind if I get involved? And I wasn't asking is what he's added to that as well. He's going to caveat it slightly as Alex Brown tucks on the back, as does Peter Cox and Nathan Anstice. But without further ado, we've got a lot to dissect. In fact, we're not going to be dissecting anything because we need to absolutely pick apart the battle in here. As that is going to be Nathan Scott coming blazing up the inside there, down over Fox, who went deep as a result of battling with Richard Jones, but Jones in the end moves into second place in rookie. The rookies right now absolutely getting all fired up as Daniel Fox is going backwards there. He's swarmed by pro drivers left, right and centre, and also an AM there in the form of Sean Cranleigh-Swash. The man is back into second in the AM class, and that is a move from Darren Norquette in the Racing Forces McLaren up the inside of Richard Jones, trading some paint, and with it probably insurance numbers. But going out of turn 9 up towards turn number 10, well, no foul, no done, as Alistair Murray now wants to have a bit of a game with Daniel Fox, which is, can he find his way into third in the rookie class? Answer seems to be no at the moment at least, but as he rolls off of Apex and down towards turn number 10, well, down number 11 I should say, well, right now it's definitely all fiery outside the top 20. Indeed, it does seem as though the further you go down the order, everyone right now absolutely getting their elbows out, but keeping it fair, to be fair, and that's absolutely wonderful to see. Now, in all of this, we should point out that Jack Barker has taken the AM lead because of the drama that we have had happen the drives in front of him, and all that drama we are going to get replays of shortly, but it's absolutely unpredictable right now. In the opening 10 minutes, which we're coming to the end of, we do have a timer off screen which we're looking at the moment to keep ourselves appraised. Well, all the drivers roaring the way around, and well, for the time being at least, it does seem as though it's calming down a little bit here after the opening 10 minutes, albeit not without Alex Brown at the inside of Peter Cox through the centre S's, but in the end can't find his way through as they make the way in towards the left-hander Curva de Sol. As we can see Nathan Anstice there trying to get involved in the Corvette 06. Going to the inside he goes. Can he make this happen? And the answer is going to be yes, potentially. But in fact, it is no. There's Nathan Anstice decides to back out, and we're going to back off for a brief moment and take a look at some of the open lap incidents that we have seen, and indeed all the madness that has played out since the green flag. So as we wind away back to the very start, we start off then with the very front of the field, and this was where James Powelson got us away for 60 minutes of racing, and as he did, well, keep your eyes out in particular for Niels Bacage, who it all went very wrong for before it went even right from into an opening corner, and well, into the braking zone they went on the outside, and in the end, was he turned around there? Well, he was turned around because he was turned around by his teammate had gone loose. That was Andrew Fairley, and they all go wrong in the Ford Mustang, and that explains the delta between the two of them, only for then Andrew Fairley, he turned around around only moments later. Well, what exactly happened there from Fairley's perspective, I hear you ask, and the answer is we're not quite sure, but we will try and get a replay of that when we can. And in fact, here we go then for the replay of what happened to Andrew Fairley as he made his way into that braking zone. And in fact, can we get the replay there fairly? The answer is yes, we can, as we try to get the perspective. And as he made his way down, he'd already got rear wing damage. He had no rear downforce plus cold tyres. And in the end, that was a one-way recipe to disaster as he went on around as quickly as he exited the opening couple of quarters. This then subsequently happened for Neil Kenyon at the start of the race. And well, for Neil Kenyon, what exactly happened, I hear you ask? Well, he was in the orange Mercedes AMG, clipped there by Daniel Oliver Fox. And we thought that was Alistair Murray. We do apologise, that wasn't Alistair Murray, that was Neil Kenyon. Similar liveries there, orange on red, and Neil Kenyon being sent around and towed to the pits as quickly as that. Giles Philippets had this happen on the open lap as well. This was down the Restaurant Aposta straight. And well, Philippets at the time, defending versus Jack Barker, went onto the brakes for DDK. Rear of the car, rolls a little bit out wide, but no major drama there. And Giles Philippets, in the end, well, we thought there was a bit of an incident. No, he just had a bit of a navigation issue there. But in the end, got it back together in due course. But as they made the way up the hill, what else happened? Well, we had this for Darren Giacovelli. And we also had a bit of an incident for PJ Alvarez. I think Giacovelli had already been involved in one incident at the start of the race. And in towards Jinsao corner, went deep, went very deep, and ended up into the weeds. And that's not the way you want it to go whatsoever. But then we subsequently had this happen to Darren Norquette on lap number 2. And indeed, all the drama continues. This was Norquette battling his way up into turn number 8. Car on the inside, that was Peter Cox with him into the apex, and Cox in clipping with Norquette, and that is how in the end he picked up some damage and the whole field had to negotiate. We also had the car go out wide there, and we'll try and see the door number on that McLaren. Couldn't quite see. I think that was Christopher Bates there trying to park the car up in solidarity and also for something going wrong. We also had a bit of a moment for Ruben Berings a bit later, but before that, this is what happened to Peter Cox. This was on lap number 3, same corner, lost the rear of the car coming out. We lost Peter Cox, then we had him come back, and I think there, in the disappearance and reappearance, that he was edged off the road. Oh, goodness me, Matthew Sheraton gave him a knock from the ether, and then Sean Cranleigh-Swash came straight into the scene of incident, and that is how Jack Barker took the lead of the AM class. There were Peter Cox having it all go wrong, and then subsequently we had none other than this for Brett Berings, and it's put him away down the order. He was at the time fighting and already scrapping here was the pro pole sitter, and well, making his way down towards the braking zone. Oh, goodness me, that got very temperamental there, and that was with the 913 Effect Simulations machine, and trying to see which AMG that was. That was Simon Bamber, who had a bit of a nightmare moment, and well, it all came to terms between the two drivers there. And well, without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, let's return to your live racing. I think after one more replay, because we've had this one for James Ibrahim versus Brett Berings, they made their way into turns 6 and 7, door rub, and in the end, both getting unsettled, and well, James Ibrahim losing the car, and Brett Berings in the end being collected with him. But I think the door rub between the two unsettled both cars, and they parked up together, I think, to have a quick conversation before getting back on the road. So without further ado, let's get back on the road to your live racing. So back we come, indeed a long set of replays there, and well, we are now already 14 minutes into this race. We've got plenty more to come, and as we look back to the front of the field, we look to your overall position for the time being. And well, right now Stuart Reynolds carrying on his journey here as he tries to lead this race and run away with it. But with all the fighting that's going on, Darren Sharples meanwhile also continues to push onwards as I tries to make the way around, and everybody right now just keeping their head down as we do see there Milton Tomlinson Dennis trying to get a place back ahead of Darren Sharples, and Sharples will fight this a little bit with his fellow elite driver, albeit right now the AM driver here I think focusing more on the campaign and needing to chase down Sean Cranleigh-Swash for second place in class, and we'll use Tomlinson Dennis as a bit of a pace car. Now, Cy Anthony, despite having Luke Checker try and put the move on him earlier on, he did get the place back down the start finish straight into lap number 2, we can point out, and that's why Cy Anthony's all the way up in 13th place at the moment. In fact, he has made a bit of a crusade up here. It's Krista Halsoy, intriguingly, has in fact dropped a way back behind him here. Halsoy, who did have a decent run, well, that run has come to a bit of a close, and well, all drivers right now continue onwards. And all of our drivers right now continue to press onwards as much as humanly possible here as they make the way into the second quarter of this race. But it does seem as though this might be a bit of a race of attrition. And speaking of attritional racing, well, in the rookie class, there is Jordan Jones, who's found his way up into 3rd place. He started in 5th in the rookie class. He battles with the wounded ambush of Peter Cox, but round he goes here as he makes his way onwards. And right now, Jordan Jones definitely looking to score a podium, albeit Alex Brown is not too far behind. We have had a change of leader, it should be pointed out, with Stuart Reynolds finding his way ahead of none other than James Powson. Unfortunately, we don't have the opportunity to get you a replay of that because we've gone past that replay footage now, but that did happen in the early stage of the race as well. So it was Powson who started on a lead pole, but he has swapped the place there with Stuart Reynolds, so it's not quite worked out for him. But speaking of pressure here, well, we kept talking all the way through what was the warm-up into qualifying about this fight between Tractix Racing and DDK Race Anywhere, and that being the battle between Ruben Berings and Daniel Shillcock, or at least one member of the Tractix Racing family today, here in the Pro class. And Shillcock is as close as he's ever been to the back of the Pro Championship leader, the man who is continuing to take the wins away from everybody else. And well, right now, Shillcock very close, but is he going to be close enough to try and find a way to make a move? I don't think he's going to be able to here, as he is going to be a bit too far back. Half a second is the delta, and well, that Porsche looking very quick, it must be said. In fact, Shillcock here is not gaining in the toe, he's losing in the toe, and therefore that would definitely demonstrate that right now the setup principles between these two cars are very different. Now, the thing about Interlagos is, it is a circuit that's considered to be a very balanced circuit. There's a little bit of everything around here, because of course you do have the long start-finish straight and the long run down the Reta Aposta, and the run all the way out towards turn number 6 from 4. The idea being here that straight line speed can be just as valuable as corner speed, with the first sector being dominated by straight line speed and a little bit of direction change. The middle sector, meanwhile, as we see Ruben Berings making a bit of a ham sandwich there, running wide out of turn number 4, middle sector is dominated by corner and handling ability, and in the latter sector is a mixture of the two. So you can set up the car for straight line speed here, you'll lose out in the middle sector, but you'll gain considerably in the rest of the lap. Conversely, if you do go for what will be cornering ability, then you'll gain massively in the middle sector, but you've got to break away before a driver gets close on the final stretch, and that's what we're seeing here. Shillcock versus Berings. I think Shillcock, they've decided on the Tractix Racing 270 literally to throw everything into the car's handling at the cost of some straight line performance here, and well, right now it's keeping him very close and in touch with his rival. But down they come. A bit of drama in the rookie class should be pointed out, and thank you to Alex Brown for pointing this out in the YouTube chat, and the fact that Richard Jones having connectivity issues, and as a result his race has come to a stop. And well, that's a big shame there, because the Stasuk Racing Driver was looking to follow on from his maiden win of the season last time out of Magny-Cours by adding at least a podium to his books, but he's not going to be able to do that today with that retirement. But with that retirement right now, we do see Alex Brown, meanwhile, where he's picked up the torch, where it's been dropped by his teammate, because the Slow and Steady Racing Driver is going anywhere but slow and steady right now, as he tries to chase after a podium place here for Dan Oliver Fox, as they battle for third place in the rookie class. And right now, the Slow and Steady Racing Driver here, well, he's definitely one of those drivers who's been learning a lot, and we'll keep in mind that his first iRacing League was the UK Sim Racing Multiclass Season 3 Championship, so this is only his second iRacing League, I do believe. And right now the rookie, he really is a true rookie out there, albeit not being rude about our other rookies. I mean, a lot of them are relatively inexperienced, but Alex Brown, you could say, is the least experienced of all of them, if my memory serves me correctly. Well, right now he's doing an absolutely solid job here of putting Oliver Fox under pressure, and he's here to pick up the points where others drop them, and that's what you've got to do as a rookie driver. Oh, that's going to be a mistake, and that almost sees him go through the back of Dan Oliver Fox. My goodness, that made my heart come through my chest. Now, for those wondering why did he make a mistake, well, you may notice as he broke, the car was too far over to the right, and in fact the rear right tyre slid onto the grass, and Alex Brown as a result lost the ability to slow the car and tap the rear of what was Oliver Fox's Ferrari. Now, thankfully it hasn't taken the rear bumper off, but I think it's given them both a scare, and that's going to give Hendrik Zilke the opportunity to tuck up the inside as they roar the way through turn number 5 and up towards 6. But now Zilke making that move. Now he's going to look up the inside here of Oliver Fox, and I think Brown's thinking, how can I get involved? Well, he won't be wanting to get involved by running that deep for a 6 into 7, but it has not curbed his enthusiasm in the 25, and Oliver Fox right now holding on just about. But as he tries to hold on with everything that's going on, we need to talk about the fact that this man has survived more than 3 laps without a major incident. He's had a few bumps and scrapes from what I gather, and we have seen some of that on camera. But right now, your AM leader, Jack Barker, well, touching wood, ladies and gentlemen. He's made 14 laps, and he's going to be making plenty more here as time continues to trickle away. And we'll, to give you a time update, we are 20 minutes into the race distance at this point. Unfortunately, our timer does not want to reappear on screen. It's decided to hide itself away, and I do apologise for that. But right now, he's definitely absolutely pushing onwards, is Jack Barker, as he roars his way down and through. Looking to Ruben Berings, meanwhile, your pro leader still in 7th place overall. We've still got Daniel Shillcock for close company, and Casper Brotner's 2.6 seconds behind, and I don't think he's going to be able to get any closer at this point in the race. He's still watching on as best as he possibly can. But in terms of other gains, well, of course, the man who started all the way down in 9th place in the elite class, but with many of his rivals seemingly stumbling over at the restart, alternatively having issues later on in the race, Daniel Stasuk has moved his way all the way up into 3rd place in the elite class behind James Powsland, and the NJB performance driver is getting closer and closer with every lap turn. Stuart Reynolds, conversely, has actually run away with this at the front of the field in the what is the Fury Simsport Ford Mustang, but Daniel Stasuk, for all the trouble he had in qualifying, I believe track limits probably being the bane of his existence in qualifying. Well, right now the Acura driver in the 733 is definitely making progress. Keeping in mind, of course, that we're only 20 minutes into the race distance. We have got a long way to go, plus a pit stop here. And Daniel Stasuk, if he can't find a way to make the overtake on circuit, he's normally the man who makes it count in the pit lane just as much as well. He doesn't really have a chink in his armour, per se, or any weaknesses. He's the most rounded driver that we have seen in a long time in the UK Sim Racing GT3 League. And I mean that with very high praise, because normally every driver has some sort of weakness, even the champion of champions in the top class. But right now, it seems the only weakness that Daniel Stasuk has today is that he's had a weak qualifying session. But you look back over the previous few rounds and you'll find that his qualifying performances have been right at the top. Meanwhile, looking back to pro, Daniel Shillcock taking another sneak peek up the inside there versus Ruben Berings, but nothing comes about it for now. Shillcock here, I think, really being made to work all the RPM band of that McLaren to try and make a move happen, but no magic forthcoming. But Berings is definitely not being allowed to run away with this one this time, and that is being shown. Now, whilst all this has been happening, we have had a little bit of drama further back to Alex Brown. He's had a major off-track. Is that? It's going to be a look up the inside there from Shillcock. I don't think Berings expected that to happen. I think Shillcock decided, you know what, I'm going to have to throw something at this because it's not working right now. And as we look back from the rear of the leading Pro Porsche, these two incredibly close together as they roar the way down, and was Berings there makes his way into that braking zone, that wonderful run that takes him up to 122 miles an hour and then all the way back down. Well, right now Daniel Shillcock is really bearing his fangs here as much as humanly possible, and I think Daniel's trying to essentially say, look Ruben, I am going to take this lead off of you at some point in this race because I can absolutely reach out and grab it right now. And I think Ruben Berings at this point is probably thinking to himself, okay, they really are going to have a bit of a run with me today. I think he's enjoying himself, however. He is the DDK Race Anywhere driver. I don't think he'll be complaining about this one. But down for the centre races they go once again onto their 16th tour of the circuit under race conditions. No change at the moment. Meanwhile, speaking of changes that are afoot, we do have this growing battle for second place. James Powsland in the elite machine ahead of fellow elite driver Daniel Stasuk, and they are getting ever closer together as they head in towards turns 6 and 7. Through the double right this time. Well, Stasuk not close enough to really think about a move, but he is within attacking distance at certain points on the lap now, as we have had a bit of drama further down the order for Nathan Scott, as I understand it. We will get a replay of that when we can, because I believe he has had to tow to the pit, and well, a bit of drama for Nathan Scott, not a happy moment at all. But right now, Stasuk and Powsland, they're so close at this point that Stasuk here, I think, will be wondering whether turn 1's feasible, but we know that Mercedes AMG with 6.3 litre V8 power plant has a lot of straight line speed, and that's the one thing above all else that Powsland will be using as much as possible to keep himself safe. Up the hill he goes, and as he does so, what can he do here? Well, the answer is he can just put his foot down all the way to the floor and through it and hope that Stasuk's not close enough. And the answer is yes, Stasuk is definitely too far away to think about moving to turn 1 unless he's going to go for the send of the season here. But even so, he's going to need at least 2 first-class stamps for that one, and right now he hasn't got the budget for it, or at least wants to take the risk of spending the budget or going up the inside. But down through 1 and into 2, they stay as they were, albeit as they exit out. What can we tell? Well, we can't tell too much here. I don't think Stasuk right now are really trying to leverage too much of a bit of pressure onto Powsland. He's close, but I think this is more now potentially starting to get into the territory of close enough to make his rival make a mistake rather than force his rival into a mistake, and that is going to be the game plan there for Stasuk for at least what will be the next 5 to 10 minutes, depending on when they plan to take their pit stops. But with 35 minutes remaining on the clock, that is going to be 2-3 wide, and that is Milton Tomlinson Dennis there, who picks his way past James Ibram and Sean Cranleigh. In fact, that's not Sean Cranleigh-Swash, that's the car that's a lap down, as Sean Cranleigh-Swash is a bit further back, And we do have a pit stop for Simon Bamber, who's leaving the pit lane now. In fact, he has left the pit lane. So we are seeing a few drivers starting to make their pit stops. But Milton Tomlinson Dennis, well, he's under pressure from mid-brown. He's trying to come back at him here, under braking in turn 4. Can't make that happen, and that would have been for 8th place in the elite class. So therefore, a bit of an exchange starting to be possible between them, as Tomlinson Dennis carrying on as quickly as he can. But onwards they go, and as they do, we're looking back to the rookie class. Alex Brown, he was in a bit of drama earlier on, and now they can see the evidence of the drama. It's dropped into 6th place in rookie. But the question is, what exactly happened to Alex Brown? What's happened to a number of drivers? Well, we've got a few replays to come up here to explain. We start off with what happened to Alex Brown, and without further ado, here's the replay, ladies and gentlemen. Now, this was Alex Brown going quite slowly through turn number 9, letting Matthew Cheverton go, though, I should say. And, ooh, the rear right tyre just stepping onto the grass and unfortunately prangs the front right suspension onto the Armco barrier there. And that is going to make that BMW M4 very unstable to drive under heavy braking, because that front right now is not going to be pointing straight. So that explains what happened to Alex Brown. We then subsequently had this happen to Nathan Scott, which saw him towed to the pits. What exactly happened, however? Well, under braking here, it was the Racing Forces machine, the Darren Sharples on the inside. A tiny tap there, it looks like, to Nathan Scott's car, and Scott in the end being turned, and in the end, that was him done and dusted. I think that might have been the thing that's retired him from the race. We head back to your live racing, ladies and gentlemen. And as we do, still, there's plenty of questions to be asked and plenty of answers to be had, as we do still have a bit of a lock-in with regards to our battles at this time. Everybody's still moving the way on around at the moment and starting to get a little bit itchy towards the pit stops, as Peter Cox, despite missing the front bumper, still holding on to 4th place in the AM class, at least for the time being. But he does have Hendrik Zilka getting closer there in the Venari racing machine. Behind, you can see that is going to be Matthew Cheverton up the inside of Jordan Jones. Cheverton has pitted, it should be pointed out, so therefore, having taken his pit stop, now his duty is going to be to try and make the most of this. He's currently 10th in the pro class, but remember, the majority of the pros in front of him have yet to pit. In fact, none of them are pitted. He is the first of the pro pit stop drivers, and that is going to set a marker now for everybody else. He really is running effective last. If you do exclude from the equation Ruben Berings, who is a lap down, but is still out there trying to make sure he gets some points from today, and therefore, well, you never know how valuable those points could be come the end of the season, because you don't know what happens until each and every round is complete. So Cheverton here really does need to nail these laps now, because otherwise everybody else who pits after him, well, they'll be using him as a reference marker. So he's decided to take the gamble, but was it the right gamble? Only time will tell as he gets ready to go on to another lap very short in what will be his 19th tour of the circuit. From him, we come back to the Pro League battle. Ruben Berings still ahead of Daniel Shillcock. For now, the gap has opened up slightly, up to 3.5 tenths. They make the way up the hill. No changes at the moment. Both drivers here still pushing each other onwards, although you do have to wonder a little bit whether both drivers are running at 100% here. I get the feeling that Daniel Shillcock is definitely driving at 100%, and the reason I say that is because you can see it in the body language of the car, in the fact that he's really attacking his apex in that McLaren. He's not at any point really backing off and showing no signs of letting that gap ebb and flow. The natural thing would be, if he wasn't pushing 100%, you would see that gap open up particularly into the braking zones, the heavier braking zones, where he'd be lifting off the throttle in order to save a little bit of fuel. But Shillcock right now, I think he wants to try and really put the mental pressure on Berings. You can understand why, because the 270 driver here, this is the first time this season where Tractix Racing have been able to stay within Ruben Berings, at least on the opening stint, within half a second over the whole of a given lap. And right now, as they make their way across that line, of course, the timing tower will make me a liar there and say that gap's now just opened up to 5.5 tenths of a second. But right now, Daniel Shillcock, the point being here, he's the closest he's ever been, and he wants to try and see what pressure he can mount on Ruben Berings. But credit where it's due to the DDK with Race Anywhere driver. He is absolutely nailing this right now as we look back from the rear of his car, in the fact the number 91 from Belgium is showing no signs of worrying about this pressure. He's used to it, and well, with that pressure in mind, at circuit in there, Magny-Cours, of course, the pressure was 6 seconds away. Here today, it's a lot closer, and well, he's making sure not to let the pressure get to him mentally, at least at this point in time. But from pressure that's mounting between them, we talk to pressure points a bit further up the order in terms of position numbers. And Luke Checker has just come into the pits from the lead of the rookie cars. He's been serviced. In fact, there he is in his pit box. Where is Jordan Jones in all of this? Well, he will go on through to take the lead of the rookie class, but knows he's a pit stop down on Checker. So therefore, the theory will be that Luke Checker at this point, the man who's absolutely blitzed rookie in terms of his lap times, particularly that qualifying pole time, well, right now, Jordan Jones will be hoping that things just continue to go swimmingly together and therefore he could be potentially on course for what would be his first ever second place in the rookie class. But again, it's a long way to go before we do get to that conclusion, so let's not say it's happened until it does definitely happen at the checkered flag. But from him, we look back to Matthew Cheverton here, who right now is being chased by Peter Cox and Hendrik Zilka just a little bit further up the road. You can see them all together, and the 4th and 5th place AM drivers keeping the 9th place Pro driver honest as he tries to find a way to make the most of the undercut strategy. And the fact we haven't seen any other pros peeled away into the pits that are in front of Matthew Cheverton at the moment, apart from Krista Halsoy, in fact, who's come into the pits, and in doing so has re-emerged in 10th place in Pro, and he is currently behind Matthew Cheverton by the best part of 7 seconds. So Cheverton has been able to cover off Krista Halsoy, who was having a very difficult race to start with. But Halsoy right now, I think, just trying to pick things back together and weave all the pieces back into the mix. These drivers are making their way on through still, and it does seem as though, at least for now, Halsoy not giving up on this race yet. And indeed, you can't give up until the very end because anything can happen. Indeed, at Interlagos, or indeed any circuit, as we've still got 29 minutes left on the clock. Looking to Ruben Berings, well, he's got Daniel Shillcock still glued right behind him here. No change between these two, at least at the moment. And, well, we talked about them quite a bit, and then you can see it on the picture again. Look at the difference in corner approaches there. And we do know 2 different machines, but normally the Porsche is defined as the cornering car, and the McLaren's not too far behind it. But the McLaren does seem to struggle a little bit with rapid-fire direction change compared to the Porsche. But right now, it would seem as though that Porsche is not set for the corners, whereas Berings is definitely set for the straight, and Shillcock in the McLaren is the corner maestro. But upwards they go again, and, well, you can see it there in the traction he gets off a Shillcock corner, where Berings is just able to open up that gap a little bit. He only opens it up by a half a tenth, if that. But that half attempt is enough to then stabilise the gap, and it's only in 6th gear where Shillcock starts to make sure he can't be pulled away from. Indeed, that slipstream starts to come into effect, but by then they're already at the braking zone for turn 1. So Shillcock right now, he's got to find a way to get a much stronger run out of turn number 12, or 30, get Berings to make a mistake, as otherwise I think they're going to be locked like this for the remainder of the race. I don't think Shillcock has an answer to Berings' traction in that Porsche. The Porsche has just got too much in 2nd and 3rd gear coming out of Junsdale corner. The McLaren cannot match it, and that's the one thing, the McLaren, it does lack a little bit of torque in the lower RPM range. You've got to be very aggressive with the gearbox, that twin turbo V8, whereas the Porsche, the flat 6 Screamer, which just seems to have torque for every RPM band imaginable. Through the double right they go, and this time Shillcock is a bit closer. Is he close enough here to think about the lunge? I don't think so. He's definitely gonna tease it out here into turn number 9. And you can see Berings goes a little bit deep. Shillcock just there decides to back out. I think deciding as much as he could put his nose in there was never going to be a sniff of a move there. And if anything, his nose would get rankled for making contact to the rear bumper of that Porsche. But Shillcock right now really trying to goad Berings into just running deeper out these corners to understeer wide. But Berings, at least for now, as much as he's flashing signs that there could be a move on, he's not inviting Shillcock to make the move whatsoever, as we do have a change of overall leader, because into the pits on the lead of the race, Stuart Reynolds in the Fury Simsport machine. He makes his way on down, so James Powell now becomes your race leader, at least for the time being. But the Paceworks Esports driver, who was only 3 seconds behind at the line, well, Daniel Stasuk is right there with him. So now these two are going longer as they continue to make their way deeper into the second half of the race duration. We now have 26 minutes left on the clock here, and it's going to be the guessing game of who's going to reveal their hand and pit first. Well, we'll have to wait and see. Now, as they roar the way onwards, in terms of the number of laps we're expecting here, well, ladies and gentlemen, I haven't actually checked that for the simple reason. I'll try to do the maths on it because I do have a timer, which unfortunately we're not going to get back for today. We're going to investigate that for the broadcast in a week's time, whether we can get our race timer up on screen permanently as a substitute for what we usually use, so we can stay up to date with all the race timing. But right now, because we don't know the lap number, my best guess is, based on the lap times we're seeing here, we're either going to see a 39 or a 40 lap race, and it's going to be very tight between the two, depending on the pit stops and how much pace our leaders are deploying. Keep in mind that this man Stuart Reynolds right now, if he's able to carry on at his pace and nothing goes wrong, I wouldn't be surprised if he's able to extend this race to 40 laps. It will be literally by a second or two if he's able to do it. As meanwhile, Berings versus Shillcock, well, that was Shillcock looking around the outside into turn number 10. So now Daniel Shillcock, I think, actually making the first attempt there. Not a lunge, just simply getting all over the back of Berings this time. In towards turn 12. Now, that's how close he wants to be there. That is a very good run for a Juntao corner, but is it enough? Because as they head up the hill here, Shillcock this time 2.5 attempts. He's got to be there if he wants it into turns 1, 2 or 3. Alternatively, he wants a better run in towards 4. Now, will Berings break the toe here and pull into the pit? No, he doesn't. Shillcock does. He does the opposite. Shillcock says, right, if I can't have it, I'm going to do it in the pit lane. So Shillcock, I think, feels as though he's got to come in, and this is going to be important because now, when he comes out the pit lane, he's got to put in a qualifying lap for his out lap. If he doesn't, Daniel Shillcock is going to lose out versus Ruben Berings. But Berings, you can imagine on the pit wall, they're going to be saying to him from DDK Racing Team, Ruben, you got to go. You've got to go very quick now because Shillcock is going to be having the time of his life if he gets his pit stop right. But we'll see what happens between them as James Connolly, meanwhile, and to keep Ryan Walker at bay for now, the Altitude 3M Esports Mustang, well, it's there or thereabouts, but it can't find its way through at the time. And keep in mind, both of these drivers have yet to pit, so therefore they'll be pitting to the pits in short order. Albeit Walker there looking around the outside versus James Connolly. I don't think these two have been in the same class in recent history when they've raced in the UK Sim Racing GT3 League, and they continue that adage of not being in the same class. But right now, both enjoying a bit of a scrap overall for 18th place as they make their way for the Curva del Sol. Back to the front of the field, Powsland and Stasuk, they make the one around, and as they do, what's it going to be this time? As they still do have 24 minutes left on the clock here, and will either of them make their way into the pit lane this time around? The answer is going to be no. They go another lap here on their opening fuel tanks, and well, I can assure you these fuel tanks have been restricted, but such is the performance of their machines, indeed how they've been managing their fuel. But Stasuk, so close at this point, but keep in mind, the man who we're expecting to be leading this race, if strategy works out as planned, is Stuart Reynolds, who right now does have Nils Bakaj behind him. However, the 734 Ford Mustang from NJP Performance has yet to take a pit stop. So therefore, the pressure that's being mounted here, it really is false pressure, and it's pressure just to get Stuart Reynolds perhaps to overdrive the car as Bakaj into the pit lane. He can't follow that Ford Mustang any further. Indeed, his fuel tank has gone the distance. But going back to the two drivers who are going the distance like a pair of boxers in the proverbial boxing ring. Well, through the double right they come, and Powsland and Stasuk still close together at the moment, but nothing between them as of yet, and no signs of a wilt to the pit lane for the strategy. But I wouldn't be surprised if we see it at the end of this lap, because we've got an absolute season of pit stops ongoing out there at the moment, in the fact that we do have the entirety of the mid-pack now making its pit stops, very quickly being marshalled in. Action elsewhere on circuit, not really happening at the moment, and that's not critiquing the racing, but it is because we are in that pit stop window. We are going to see the proverbial shuffle. We are keeping an eye on the places to see if anybody is gaining or losing, as all of the AM leaders into the pit lane. Jack Barker, well made to race there, give him a good pit stop. He makes his way on his journey once again, and in terms of the man who's trying to chase him down, well, we believe that is going to be Darren Sharples, who's the second place AM driver. He exits the pit lane, and along they go. But as they do, James Powsland and Daniel Stasuk both make their way into the pits. So I look at my Conte booth window. Ruben Berings, well, there's Shillcock taking another look at the inside. He's going to go for it this time, and well, as they make their through, contact between the two of them, and Shillcock right now, he is so eager to make this move versus Berings. He could literally grasp it with his hands, but the problem is that Ruben Berings right now, he's saying, go on, if you want it, there's not enough space, you'll cause an instant between us. Ruben Berings right now absolutely dancing with the devil here, but who can blame him, because he's absolutely driving a defensive masterclass and making Daniel Shillcock have to work that Tractix Mason McLaren more and more with every lap. And I can imagine the tyres on that McLaren, even if he's going to change some in the pit lane, well, the tyres he would change in the pit lane would be the right side ones, given the number of left-handers versus right-handers. But I wouldn't be surprised if that front left tyre is definitely taking a bit of a beating as they go another lap here across that timeline. And as they do, in fact, I believe they have served their pit stop recently. In fact, 2 laps ago they did so it, so I apologise. I'm a bit out of the woods there with regards to when their pit stops were served, but they have served them, and as they come on the round there, as I've just had the data update itself of mine to say they have taken their pit stops, well, they're in the battle all the way to the end here, and it's so tight between the two of them as they make the round down. But Daniel Shillcock definitely feeling adventurous here, but can he make that adventure last? From all this as well, change of leader overall. Daniel Stasuk jumped over James Powsland in the pit lane, and Stuart Reynolds has come out in 3rd place elite and overall. The Fury Simsport driver has had an absolute nightmare of a pit stop session, in the fact, leading this race for so long, he hasn't had the opportunity to save fuel, and well, also a longer pit stop compared to both Powsland and Stasuk by a sizable margin. To Powsland, it was by a whole second. To Stasuk, it was by 3 seconds. that is how much fuel was saved, particularly by Daniel Stasuk. And as we said earlier, if Stasuk can't find his way through on circuit, he'll do it in the pit lane, or at least attempt to, and he's done exactly that, because Daniel Stasuk is 2 seconds clear and now leading this race, and will trying to just run off into distance with it. 20 minutes to go on the clock, plus a final lap as well, ladies and gentlemen. And right now, the question will be, can Daniel Stasuk be caught? And if not, who is going to finish second behind it? Will it be Pousland, or will it be the man we're riding on board with, who's chasing down other than James Pousland? That is Stuart Reynolds. They roar the way around through the Curva del Sol. Well, place your bets on this one, because Stuart Reynolds here will not want to let second place go, but James Pousland will know that he wants to try and pick this up. We have had, of course, the unfortunate retirement for Pavel Dolezal, and well, for Dolezal, it's definitely not been a happy day at the office, and therefore, for the 191 Mercedes driver, it's all gone backwards before it's even gone forwards, and this is going to be a big dent in his championship campaign. But fighting in front, that is Jordan Jones, who cuts the inside versus Alistair Murray, and the car goes completely sideways for Jordan Jones, and it's into the barrier there for the man who was going so well. And Alistair Murray at this point, where he's going to let the two elite leaders go, he's done what he needs to do versus Jones, and that is just simply hold his position, as Jones there went for the inside line, but in the end it went a little bit too deep. But what exactly happened there to cause that? Well, we'll have to try and find out, because we are going to get a replay of the Jones incident. And here we go, ladies and gentlemen. We take a quick look back in time. Now, this was only moments ago. Murray on the right, Jones on the left. Now, Jordan Jones here, I think, went for it on the brakes, took too much apex curb, and you can see the car came down. I think with the speed he carried as well, it was not going anywhere other than straight on or around and straight on. And for Jordan Jones, it did not work out for him, unfortunately, there. But a good attempt from Jordan Jones, but a little bit too eager with the trigger finger on the brakes. But let's head back to your live racing. So back we come then, and Alistair Murray picks up the pieces that Jones has dropped. Still, however, time out there as these drivers continue to push towards the end of their adventure. But what is awaiting towards the very end of this race? That's the big question that we're waiting for the answer to. As Charles Philippets, well, he's had a bit of a backstage role in the first 40 minutes of this race, but right now he's starting to move to centre stage, because the DK driver's got Matthew Shepperton close behind him, and these two fighting over 6th place in the Pro Class as they head across that timeline. And well, I get the feeling they're going to enjoy a little bit of scrap here, with Sight Anstey 7 seconds clear, and Sight Anstey has run off into distance and is lapping considerably faster at this time. Across the line they go. Shepperton takes a look to the inside. It's just a dummy to try and get into Philippets' head, but Philippets does not go defensive at all, not worrying. And well, we do know that Matthew Sheraton really is one of those drivers who loves to try and get into another driver's head. Indeed, he is a touring car racing driver, a TCR machine driver, as much as he enjoys racing GT3s. And I can tell you I've had the pleasure of seeing Matthew Sheraton race in TCR machinery on the iRacing Simulator platform for the best part of the last 2.5 years, if my memory serves me correctly. And the Aztec racing driver, he really is one of those drivers who can get right under your skin, but that is the way he works. He really is one of those Jason Plato style drivers, and here he gets a little bit of contact side by side with Philippets there, and well, a bit of door banging makes his way through. Philippets says, okay, I'm going to try and come back, but he can't quite get to the inside of turn number 7, and Matthew Sheraton in the end squeezes his way up and moves his way into 6th place there, where I think leaving some paint behind on the green machine DDK of what is their Charles Philippets. But I get the feeling right now he'll be looking back and thinking that's one done, onwards towards the next one. But from them we look back to Ruben Berings versus Daniel Shillcock, because from tension in the Pro Class further down the order, we've got tension further up the order here as these two continue to give chase to each other, and down towards turn 1 they go for the 29th time. And right now Ruben Berings still ahead of Daniel Shillcock. Shillcock goes for it, he goes all in. There's contact between the two, but in the end they emerge from it unscathed. Sparks flew between them, but Daniel Shillcock, my good lord, in the end he was having none of it anymore, and he decided, right, I'm getting this done right now. And Daniel Shillcock, my goodness, that was brave. Now, to give credit where it's due to Ruben Berings, Ruben could have turned in on that, and it could have seen both of them going around. Daniel Shillcock left that to the last second to go for the move, but that's how much he wanted it. And Ruben Berings, to be fair, I think decided with the championship in mind, and always cognizant of the fact he doesn't need to win. All he needs to do is keep pouring the points in podium places, and also he's still got plenty of this race to go. I think that's why in the end he left the door open, but not without some side-by-side contact between the two drivers. For goodness me, that was close. And Ruben Berings and Daniel Shillcock in the end, well, they swapped places. But is that the end of their tail? We will see, as meanwhile, things are really heating up in Pro Class here. I'm not quite sure what's happened, but it's almost as if the Pro Class has decided, right, gentlemen, let's all start getting close together, because Xander Hill's now got Cy Anthony over the back of him. They're fighting over 4th place in Pro. Cy Anthony in the light blue UK Sim Racing McLaren versus the Tiki SimSport black and red McLaren in front of Hill, and down through Magullo corner they go. And right now, well, Hill's running out a bit wide. They have to get that back together when he can. From them, Halsoy versus Reynolds. Well, Reynolds here is the closest he's been in some time. Down the Retropos they go. 2 wide then in the battle for 2nd place in the elite class. And that is going to be Palsland there on the outside defender versus Reynolds. But Reynolds there. Palsland tries to squeeze back to the apex, goes to the switchback, and in the end finds a faithful and Mustang in his left-hand side and can't quite make that happen. And in the end, heading up the hill, it's going to go the way of Stuart Reynolds at least for now. But can Palsland come back at him here all the way over the crest? The Paceworks esports driver, who we say hello to in the YouTube chat, who says Acura fuel tank under investigation in reference to Daniel Stasuk's fuel tank, with the fact that he had an absolutely lightning quick pit stop by comparison. Well, the Paceworks esports driver here close, but not quite close enough to make the counter attack, and it may be that right now he's got to try and wait for an opportunity later on. We're coming out of turn number 10 in towards 11. We'll keep in mind the altitude here of this Interlagos circuit. It does have an effect on some of the machines that are racing around here, but to the difference between naturally aspirated versus turbo machines, it can have an effect. So it does mean that some cars may not be getting all the power they want compared to some of the others, but when cars are adjusted for that accordingly, it all comes into the balancing in the machinery, as James Palsland right now close, but not quite close enough to attack Stuart Reynolds. In fact, that gap has opened up to half a second. I think Palsland here may be trying to just regroup at this time. But across the line they go, and as they do, well, Ryan Walker battling Matthew Cheverton here. Well, Cheverton back fighting with him. Cheverton had made some progress and has suddenly fallen back down the order. Not quite sure how that's happened, but for Matthew Cheverton, things have gone backwards, not forwards, as he makes his way on around. And as he does, well, Walker's right there with him, trying to make the move happen. But can he find it? And the answer is no, he can't at this time. And we'll through the left hand of turn number 9, and these two staying exactly as they were. And in fact, I believe Matthew Sheraton having to take a second pit stop. That explains why he's dropped all the way down the order. I'm wondering here whether we are going to go to a 40th lap, because if Matthew Sheraton's had to make a second pit stop, the only thing I can think of is, let me just double check the data of that pit stop, and it was, well, in fact, it was a static pit stop. He did have to take some extra fuel in the car, and perhaps also some repair work. I do wonder where some drivers are looking at their fuel gauges right now and recognising the fact they're not going to make the full distance here, and whether some are having to tiptoe their way going forward. It will be on the mind at this point, because we have seen a couple of drivers have to make an extra pit stop. It could just be for damage, and we will wait and see. But the closer we get towards the final couple of minutes, that's when we really will see whether some drivers are going to go the distance in their tanks or not, and it will be heartbreaking for those who cannot. But Daniel Shillcock here moving forward, as Ruben Berings has had another moment. But meanwhile, where is Ruben Berings in all this? Well, Ruben Berings has fallen backwards, and I'm not quite sure how far he's gone backwards. He's dropped back to 3rd place in the in the pro class, and well, he's had to come into the pit lane quite recently, has Ruben Berings, and that would explain why. So he has made a second pit stop, a second trip to the pit lane. I believe that's for instant points for Ruben Berings, because we don't have any data to suggest that he's actually made a static stop compared to his previous pit stop. So I think the contact between himself and Daniel Shillcock may have just been the thing that's tipped him over the 20 instant point count, and if so for Ruben Berings, that's very unfortunate. He's now just got to try and get himself back into this, but such was the gap from Shillcock and Berings to Brotner and company. That's how he's come back out in 3rd place. And he's not too far off the back of Brotner. In fact, he is only 7 seconds off and looking to close that down very quickly. And that seems to be the narrative of Pro right now, where Daniel Shillcock and Ruben Berings are in a class of their own and storming away with the pace. But from them, we come back to Sean Cranleigh-Swash, who right now is getting a bit closer to Darren Sharples for 2nd place now, where it seems as though it's going the way of Jack Barker, who sets a fastest lap of the AM class of 31.961. So Barker's pace is continuing to come alive here. I don't know what he's found in the Acura here today, but it seems as though for round number 7 at least, Jack Barker has finally found the magic that's escaped him for the first 6 rounds of the season, and it's going to be the Sharples Cranleigh-Swash battle that's going to be the difference to the remainder of the distance, with their Nathan Anstice behind. But keep in mind, the Corvette driver in the number 96 you see there, he's not eligible to battle with these two because he is a lap down, even though he's in the AM class with them. So the best he can do is essentially watch, wait and listen, unless he thinks he's got the pace to overtake both of them and break away, and that would be a very bold statement if so. Alex Brown is just up the road, about to have a lap put on him by the AM drivers around him, but he's behind Stuart Pearson, with both of these drivers are slow and steady racing. Right now running 4th and 5th in rookie. They've had a bit of misfortune, the pair of them, at separate instances over the race distance, but they're still trying to soldier on as best as they can. But all of these drivers right now definitely just trying to make it to the end. But the end is still a little bit away, as Sharples versus Cranleigh-Swash, well, they find the rookie pairing, and you can see that Jones takes the high line, and where Brown does the same, follows his teammate. They're probably on the radio to each other, saying, okay, we'll let them both go, and we'll great awareness from both of the slow and steady machines, because right now that does not spoil what is looking to be a bit of a titanic battle here for the run-up spot in AM, as Cranleigh-Swash is still there. He's close, but not quite close enough. Upwards they go and onwards, as we do see there Daniel Stasuk or Cable 1512 in the YouTube chat confirming that there's nothing suspicious about the fuel tank. Indeed, it's been FIA approved. But as our drives carry on here and the banter plays out in the YouTube chat there, and we always encourage you to get involved in banter where you can, as long as you keep it civil. Well, right now it's definitely a civil battle between Cranleigh-Swash and Sharples. But from the civilities that they're displaying to what is Casper Brotner versus Milton, Tomlinson, Dennis, well, these two fighting over overall position here as they roll their way off of turn number 9 in towards 10. And Shillcock and Brotner Brotner and Tomlinson Dennis, I should say, nose to tail, with Shillcock still the best part of 4 seconds ahead. However, intriguingly, Casper Brotner versus Daniel Shillcock, the last lap, Brotner gained a second over Shillcock. I wonder if we can get the lap times up on screen there to show you the time delta. If so, if that time delta is coming down, there is the gap between them and how it is bouncing up and down. Well, the point being here that right now Shillcock may not be maintaining that gap as comfortably as would like. We will see whether it's perhaps traffic aided, but if so, and if that is the way the gap is going to go, then suddenly Casper Brotner could be on course potentially for chasing down the win in the Pro Class, and that would be a huge overturning of the expectations of form. But from them, we come back to the fight for second in the AM class. In rookies, we do not have too much going on at the moment. It does look as though Luke Checker is on course to lead this race to the conclusion. 8.5 minutes still left on the clock here, meanwhile, so we are heading in towards the final 5-6 laps, and Cranleigh-Swash close, but not close enough. Darren Norquette, well, he here is looking to battle with Jack Barker, who goes up the inside of him, so the AM leader now putting one over an old rivals in Pro for this season. Difference to 2 classes, but still the rivalry between them carries on, and they make the way on through. Cranleigh-Swash comes across that line, meanwhile we come back to the Pigeon Racing Ford Mustang, still not able to find a way to make a dent, at least at this time. Albeit, if Darren Sharples makes a mistake like that at the center S's, yes, there will be an opportunity for Cranleigh-Swash. That was a very poor run out the corner. He dropped it over the apex curb. And well, here you can see now immediately Sharples goes as defensive as possible down the retro poster. Cranleigh-Swash looking around the outside, but backs off early here. He decides to go for the cutback, gets Sharples to make a mistake if possible, but no can do, says the old Dooting Cars driver. And the 777 right now, it's not hanging on to its luck, it's hanging on to its skill with the driver here as the two Britons go toe-to-toe up the hill through the right-hander at turn number 6. And well, Cranleigh-Swash looking around the outside, looks for the cutback again in towards turn number 8, but the one thing that the Mustang doesn't have is as good brakes as its rivals. That's one of the difficulties, plus a very heavy car. It means that Mustang's got to brake earlier. It can't really lunge unless it's going to lean very heavily into the ABS, but with that it normally risks overheating the front tyres, something that this Interlagos circuit will be pumping a lot of temperature into those tyres, and right now Cranleigh-Swash has to back off at least for now, but it was a good attempt there, and I suspect we will see more attempts before this race is said and done between them. Meanwhile, whilst they're enjoying their back and forth exchange, well, from them, we do have Ruben Berings getting a little bit under pressure from Cy Anthony here, as Berings right now still keeping Anthony at bay, and it does seem as though this has been a very different Ruben Berings we've seen today. Still the solid driver and the championship leader of the Pro Class, but vulnerable is the word I would use here. He's not been able to break away. Now, is it potentially because Interlagos is the bogey circuit? Is there something wrong with the car that we don't know? Or has Ruben's just found the one circuit that is not going to award him as much as he would like? Well, Cy Anthony is definitely getting ready to pounce here. The fangs are being bared, and he's looking for an opportunity. Now, with all this going on, as Anthony looks up the inside there, that's going to call Berings to go deep, but very tight to the inside of turn number 9, and doesn't roll quite deep off of apex there. So it's Cy Anthony trying to go to mistake out from Berings, but Berings converting the small mistake he made into a stronger defensive line. Whilst all this is going on, Daniel Stasuk right now, his pace has dropped. Now, I say that, he's dropped to 31.1s and high 31.0s. It hasn't dropped that much, but it's dropped by a couple attempts, with Stuart Reynolds close behind. 6 minutes still left on the clock. We're on lap 36 of either 39 or 40. I think, based on where they are on circuit, I think we're going to a 40th lap. I wouldn't be certain here if everyone's fueled to that 40th lap. I'm getting the feeling that fuel tanks are going to be looking very empty in the next 2 to 3 minutes, and suddenly everyone's going to realise they've got an extra lap to do. Alberto Gravilli, he starts a long way down, the Effect Simulations Carbon McLaren. He's been picking his way up the order as well off camera for the most part, as he's behind teammate Austin William Campbell for 5th in Elite here, if he can make this work. It's going to be interesting to see what exactly exchanges from here to the very end as they make the way on down and through. But right now they stay as they were, at least for the brief moment. Carrying back to Krista Halsoy, well, Jack Barker's just put a place on the Pro Driver as the AM leader, so Barker is continuing here to look stronger and stronger, but the Corvette is getting a little bit closer as they make their way onward. Darren Rocket and James Ibrahim just behind. They're all fighting over 16th through to 19th place overall, but not for class positions. Sean Cranleigh-Swash, meanwhile, we come back to him in the Ford Mustang, and well, this is the class position, that's why we want to focus on it, because he's going to look one way, then the other versus Sharples. Around the outside, he's going to look this time. Well, last time around, Sharples in the end was made to go deep, and Cranleigh-Swash cut back. This time, Cranleigh-Swash trying to go around the outside of him all the way to the apex and beyond, and he's going to stay on the outside to get the inside in towards turn number 6. This is good manoeuvring from Cranleigh-Swash. What can Sharples do in return? And we know that McLaren is very strong in the corners, turns in, squeezes him to the apex a little bit, and Cranleigh-Swash there with a small tap. Well, Sharples lets the door back open there to respect the fact they've made contact, goes up the inside. Sharples now looking to try and come back, but can't quite find it into turn number 9. We jump on board then with the 777 for Old Dudes Cars. It drops to 3rd in the AM class, but I don't think Cranleigh-Swash is out of this yet, because Sharples will be right back there with him now as they make the way through the right and in towards the left. However, I don't know whether Sharples has got a response here, and in fact it might be a counter-attack that doesn't quite happen at the moment at least, and Sharples does fall backwards. Through Juncal they go, and up the hill, and as much as the V8 twin turbo of the McLaren tries to roar, it is the 5-litre V8 of that Mustang that is absolutely just prancing away right now, and the pony is off into the distance. But from them, we come back to the very front of the field, because Daniel Stasuk, he has been caught up by Stuart Reynolds, and Reynolds is now right there with him in elite and overall at the very front, at the top of the timings. Well, Daniel Stasuk here is looking under threat, and the Fury Simsport driver, he's not Stasuk's main rival, so you can imagine that Daniel right now, if he loses his place, he'll be gutted, but it won't be as gutting a loss of points compared to if it went the way to Pavel Dolezal, who has retired from this race. But Stasuk, I think, will want this win to try and put the championship to sleep as quickly as he possibly can. But as they make the way down, lap 38, and with 3.5 minutes as they started that lap or thereabouts, we I think are going to get a 40th lap with about 5 seconds left on the clock. It is going to be incredibly close, and I wouldn't be surprised if Stasuk right now is just trying to manage this race and potentially trying to wind it down to a 39 lap rather than a 40 lap race. As we had a bit of a moment there just in front, and who on earth is that caught up in drive? I think that's Rob Windsor, and also there, well, in fact I think that's James Connie, my apologies, and I think with him is the Stone Steam racing machine of Stuart Pearson that's been called up in some sort of altercation together. But Stasuk and Reynolds, they are nose to tail coming into the middle sector, but this is where Stasuk's car should shine in that accurate. It's got the rotation compared to the Ford Mustang, but the Fury Simsport machine is staying right there with him as he heads in towards 10. Similar delivery cars, but two different teams, and through the turn 10 exit and down towards 11. Stasuk this time open up the corner as wide as humanly possible. Reynolds, meanwhile, nice and tight at the apex. I can imagine that is to offset the understeer from the dirty air. And well, coming out of South corner, you can see James Powelson is only 1.5 seconds behind. He's closing up, and it's a further 10 seconds to Tobias Kruken, who started all the way down to 7th place in the lead, and is running full for the moment. Well, Tobias Kruken putting on another unsung performance. 1 minute 55, 1 minute 54, and then as they come towards the line, it is going to be 1 minute and 45 seconds left. We're going 40 laps, ladies and gentlemen. There's no way they're bleeding the pace out of this one to make it only 39 laps. We're getting an extra lap, and I wouldn't be surprised if suddenly a lot of pit crews are going to be making the way out at the end of this 39th lap, because we've gotten very close, and with the pace the leaders are delivering here, well, I think it was the opening pace of none other than Stuart Reynolds that has really enabled us to get to the 40th lap, because he was running the lead unabated for the first 37 minutes of the race, whereas everybody else was fighting. Stuart Reynolds, meanwhile, was extending this race by an extra lap. Alberto Gravelli battling with Tobias Kruk, and this is the fight for fourth. And well, Gravelli right now trying to put one over the Mercedes driver. Meanwhile, Kruk there goes as defensive as possible. The Effect Simulations McLaren's made to go all the way around the houses. Runs out of road, but he comes back on there, and as he does, well, dirt on the tyres, he's going to be made to fall. But you can see Austin William Campbell here trying to get involved. Gravelli back on the inside. He's not happy with how it's going so far. He's going another lunge at this. It's turn 6, but can't quite find it. Takes too much apex curb and has to back off there to avoid making contact. but Kruken holds on for the time being in 4th place, but Austin William-Campbell's queuing up there, and Gravelli as well, just trying to get himself back in the game as they come down and around. Jack Barker sets a personal best and we're a new and fastest lap of 31.751. Exchanging lap times with Luke Checker, intriguingly enough, the fastest rookie out there, the leading rookie driver, and it's all coming through. But meanwhile, back to Stasuk versus Reynolds. They just made the way out of Juncal Corner, and they're side by side as they exit it. Stasuk still a nose ahead as they head towards turn 14, but will either one of them pull into the pits? No, they won't. They're going to go to a 40th lap, ladies and gentlemen. Here we go then. We're going the distance, and these two, they've got the fuel they reckon to do it, but who is going to be the winner come the end of it? Powson's only a second behind as well. We've got a three-way fight for the leaders race all the way to the end, but down they come through the drop, and as they do, well, there's also drama further back, because in the battle for second in AM class, there's going to be time between all the drivers as they roar the way around, and as they do, nothing between them at least for now. These drivers absolutely pushing each other to the limit here as they roar the way onwards, and well, you can see Darren Sharples still trying to find a way past Ryan Walker to get ahead of Cranleigh-Swash, but from them back to lead the elite class, and as they come around, Daniel Stasuk still holding on by literally a nose cone as they come in towards turn number 6. This elite battle is absolutely on tenterhooks through that right-hander and up towards turn 8. Can Reynolds go for the move here? No, he can't. He's going to have to wait. Bit of brake smoke up there. I'm not quite sure who's got off, but somebody's had it go wrong, but right now it's going so right for this top 3. And coming out of turn number 9, well, Powson's just watching here. I don't think he's really got a stake in this game unless the two in front of him take each other off the road. But through the right, in towards the left, and down they come. And right now, Reynolds is so close that he could absolutely reach out and touch the rear wing of that Acura, but he won't be able to. He's got to get a good exit of Junsal Corda, but what can Stasuk do to ruin it? Well, the answer is I don't think he can do anything, because they come out of the final quarter. It's a drag race to line now. Has the Mustang got enough, or has the Acura just stayed at one step ahead? It's 6 cylinders versus 8, and the difference of a turbo between the two of them, but to the line they go, and as they do, the checker flag is going to wave, and Daniel Stasuk takes victory here by 2.5 tenths over Stuart Reynolds. James Powson takes third overall in elite. Header Tobias Kruken will be your next driver on through, with Alberto Grilli and Austin William-Campbell not too far off of each other. Here they come to line, and I think it is going to be, as they stand, yes it is, within Simon Bamber a comfortable what is 15-16 seconds behind. But hold up, there's absolute drama going on at the moment. We've got drivers into the pit lane. It's all happening left, right and centre as Simon Bamber is making his way to the line in 7th place very shortly, and then only 3.5 seconds back, there is your pro winner, Daniel Shillcock. He's done it. He's finally taken victory, his first win of the season for Tractix Racing, and gets one over Ruben Berings, as Milton Tomlinson Dennis was between them and Casper Brotney, your runner-up in pro. Nils Bacage in 11th ahead of Ruben Berings, and Jack Barker, well, he's got a way to go. Berings has held on to 3rd in pro ahead of Cy Anthony, with Xander Hill heading his way across the timeline now. Giles Philippetts will take 6th in the pro class, and well, then we do have Jack Barker then making his way through. And how about this, ladies and gentlemen? 6 rounds of misery. 6 rounds where 3 laps was the max we could do, but here today, all he could do was 40 of them with perfection, and for Jack Barker, it's an AM win, a first of the season. Header James Ibrahim Downlocker and Luke Checker comes up through to take his first rookie victory of the season, and what a win for the rookie winner. An absolutely dominant drive there, with Sean Cranleigh-Swash second in the AM class just behind, and then we did have Matthew Sheraton cover for header Chris Halsoy and Ryan Walker. Darren Sharples will take 3rd in the AM class. He's run out of steam. He's not going to make it to the end, but thankfully for him, as he's rolling slightly backwards down the hill there, he's rolled to the bottom of the hill. He has technically finished the race because Hendrik Zilka has finished a lap down behind the leaders. Alex Brown, well, he's done 4th place in the rookie class, just behind BJ Alvarez, and Alistair Murray was your 2nd place finisher in rookie. But a lot of drivers, I think, have not made it to the end of the race on fuel, as we do see here Casper Brotner. He is going to help his teammate make it to the end. Well, I think Casper Brotner, has he got enough fuel to get this done? I don't think Casper has. I think the old dudes in cars drivers have both run out of fuel here, and if so, they're not going anywhere, and that is disaster right at the end. Ryan Walker's crawling to the finish line. A lot of drivers, I don't think, had the fuel to go a 40th lap, and it's drama between them all as he rolls his way across the line, does Ryan Walker, just enough momentum, but in the end, what was a brilliant battle for 8th place in pro has to settle for 10th. Goodness me, ladies and gents, but well, that's an ending to the race that we never thought would come, but in the end it has. And with that, let's take a look to the scenic view, and with it, the race results, subject to Eddie Stewart's inquiries. But Interlagos has definitely delivered like it always does, no doubt about it, as the results appear on screen. So as they do, we start off with the overall finishing positions, and as we can see in terms of your top 15, Daniel Stasuk, overall an elite winner for round number 7 of the UK Sim Racing GT3 League Season 15, and what a drive for the NJB Performance driver. In the end, he may not have put it on pole, but made his way through from a 9th place start on the grid to take victory, and it's not about how you start, it's about how you finish, and Daniel absolutely delivering. Stuart Reynolds, second there for Fury Sim Sport, and I think he will be a little bit furious at the fact the Ford Mustang in the end just not having enough and to get the job done on the straights versus the Acura that just seems to be indomitable right now in the hands of Daniel Stasuk. But Reynolds threw everything at this one, and you can't take anything from him as he takes second place. James Powelson, third there for Paceworks Esports in a damage limitation race, but good points for his Drivers' Championship, but not for the Team's Championship, particularly with the retirement of his teammate Pavel Dolezal. Tobias Kruken, fourth there for Solpec Precision Racing, made to work for it in the closing stages by the Effect Simulations pair of Alberto Gravilli and Austin William Campbell. From them, it was Simon Bamber in Effect Simulations Carbon's Mercedes, who took 7th ahead of Daniel Shillcock, your pro winner, who finally puts a win over Ruben Berings. He had to absolutely fry himself at that one. The Tractix racing driver in the end finding his way to the victory, albeit with some contact along the way. Milton Tomlinson-Dennis took 9th overall and 8th in the elite class of World of Racing with STR. And then in 10th place, Casper Brotner, runner-up in the pro class, but importantly as well, 10th place overall, the Old Dudes in Cars driver, and a very strong performance today. Niels Bacard, with a frustrating open lap, takes 11th for the NJB Performance ahead of Ruben Berings, with the DDK Race Anywhere driver taking 12th on the road, but 3rd in the pro class, but still knowing that he has got a points lead that he's continued to nurse through the season. Site Anstey just behind him for UK Sim Racing Price, only by 3 thousandths at the finish line, ahead of Zander Hill by an extra 6 seconds, and then the Tiki Sim Sport driver being followed up a second behind by Giles Philipperts for DDK with Race Anywhere. That was your top 15, and then you come to 16th place before you get to your AM winner, Jack Barker for Made for Racing, who finally takes his first win of the season, and with it finally finishes the race without some drama in the early stages, and well, he was comfortably ahead of the next driver in the AM class. But before we get to Sean Cranleigh-Swash, who was your second place finisher in 20th, in 19th was your rookie winner, Luke Checker. What a performance on the privateer in the Ferrari 296. All the way through the practice sessions in the week, he was looking incredibly fast, and he was amazed at his pace, and well, he'll be amazed even more that he's taken that rookie win by a considerable margin. And then it was your AM runner-up in 20th place, Sean Cranleigh-Swash for Pigeon Racing, and you have to go a little bit further down the order after his battle with Darren Sharples, and to find in 24th place, Sharples, who took 3rd in the AM class for Old Dudes in Cars, a lap down. Then we have to come all the way to 27th place for your rookie run-up, Alistair Murray for UK Sim Racing Hill, and BJ Alvarez their 3rd place in the rookies, 29th for Push the Standard, separated from Alistair Murray by Rob Windsor between. We're going to go into the class finishing position shortly, but just to see there, several drivers finishing a lap down, with that concluding that Alex Brown, and then we had 2 laps down there for Nathan Anstice, all the way through to your 36th place finisher of Christopher Bates, but we do need to talk about our non-finishers there, including Andrew Fairley, Peter Cox, Nathan Scott, Nathan Foster, the 2 Nathans there, not having a happy day at the office. The same for Richard Jones, Darren Giacovelli, Neil Kenyon, and Pavel Dolezal. Unfortunately for the Pacebox Esports driver, things not working out today. Coming on to your class finishing positions, and this is where all the points are scored, and we begin with the elites, as we always do. And Daniel Stasuk there, your winner by 2 tenths at the line for NJP Performance over Fury Simspot Stuart Reynolds, with James Powelson a further 9 tenths off. Tobias Kruken was then 12.5 seconds back, but to be fair, 4th place, a well-deserved one, holding off the charger of Alberto Gravilli and Austin William Campbell, with then a 15-second gap to Simon Bamber, who took 7th, with Milton Tomlinson-Dennis, Niels Bacard, and James Ibram round off the top 10, as we say hello there to James Ibram in the YouTube chat. 9 laps down, and therefore a non-finisher, Andrew Fairley for NJB Performance, just not his day today, and for Pavel Dolezal as well for Paceworks Esports, it never quite got going. We'll then come to the pro class. And here in the pros, it was the story today of a battle of 2 titans, but the one who stood the test of time, Daniel Shillcock for Tractix Racing, taking a very hard-fought win in the 270 by 3.5 seconds over Old Dudes in Cars, Casper Rotner and Ruben Berings, with that drive-through penalty having to settle for 3rd for DDK with Race Anywhere. It was then only at 3 thousandths to cite Anti for UK Sim Racing Price, who found himself right in the thick of the fight, as he always does, but who can blame him for it? He took 4th ahead of Zander Hill, With 5th place for the Tiki Simsport driver, ahead of Giles Lepet for 2 seconds behind for DDK with Race Anywhere, and there was a sizable 18-second gap before Darren Orkett arrived on the scene in 7th place. However, the Racing Forces driver did well to keep Matthew Sheraton at bay, with the Aztec Racing Machine being held to 8th ahead of Krista Halsoy, with the Tractix Racing driver not having a happy day in the office and the Corvette not standing the test of time here today. Ryan Walker was 10th at Altitude 3M Esports, and then 2 laps down, Brett Behrens for DDK with Digital Motor Art. Well, he made it to the end of the race, picked up some points, and that's the spirit, with non-finishes for Nathan Scott for Empire Motorsport and the priority of Nathan Foster. In AM, well, Jack Barker was the man well planned today, and the Made for Racing driver had some wangs, he had some bangs, but in the end he managed to hold on to victory by 12 seconds for Made for Racing over Pigeon Racing Sean Cranleigh-Swash. However, Sean Cranleigh-Swash was able in the end to complete the race under his own steam, whereas Darren Sharples ran out of a little bit of petrol right at the close, but still Cranleigh-Swash there making the move count, a brilliant battle between himself and his fellow countrymen, and in the end putting one over the old dudes in cars McLaren. 4th place went to Hendrik Zilka for Venari Racing, ahead of James Connolly, who in the end of UK Sim Racing Stuart finished ahead of his teammate Rob Windsor. It was 2 laps down to UK Sim Racing Hill's Nathan Anstice, and then retirements for both Peter Cox on his return to racing and Neil Kenyon there for UK Sim Racing Price. Coming on to the rookie class, last but by no means least, and here we saw the story that was Luke Checker taking a brilliant drive to victory there, and the only rookie driver to finish on the lead lap. That is a statement if I've ever seen one. The privateer there ahead of Alistair Murray for UK Sim Racing Hill, and BJ Alvarez returns to the grid and returns to the podium with it for Push the Standard, with some important points that will keep him in the hunt versus Alistair Murray as we go deeper into the season. 2 laps down to Alex Brown. Well, not 2 laps down there. 1 lap down to Alex Brown. Let's not be rude about him. The slow and steady racing driver there, finishing in 4th place. Well done to him, ahead of teammate Stuart Pearson, who was 2 laps down. And it was the privateers of Dan Oliver Fox and Jordan Jones. Credit where it's due to both of them. Dan Oliver Fox enjoying some great battling for 3rd place in the early stage of the race. And Jordan Jones, if he had not have missed his braking point going into turn 6 in his battle for being on the podium, could he have potentially been the runner-up today? Well, it's always a big what-if question. Christopher Bates took 8th place for LLA, and then we saw Richard Jones and Darren Giacovelli, your 2 retirees for SAS Racing and Swazi Gold respectively. But that concludes our run-through of the finishing positions for today, ladies and gentlemen, and what a race it was for round number 7. But with that, of course, it brings our racing to a close, and it does mean it's now time for us to make our way into our VRS giveaway winners. And well, as we do transition our screen on over, well, of course, we do take this from all of our starters of the race. Now, we just need to double-check, did Pavel Dolezal actually start the race or not? We are just going to try and find out that information. I do believe that Pavel Dolezal may not have actually got rolling in this race, unfortunately, today. So therefore, I do believe that we may have to actually exclude the Czechia driver from the raffle draws, albeit we may have to exclude him regardless because of the fact he has been involved and won a number of draws already. But we'll see as we go. But we start off then with a 3-month VRS subscription giveaway, and the names we are going to be removing from this today will be none other than, firstly, well, we do have Simon Bamber who needs to be removed, and there he goes. His name comes off the list. We also need to remove Ryan Davies, who wasn't here today, so no worries there. Also Xander Hill, who makes a disappearing act. Pavel Dolezal, who in the end did not make it to the finish, as we do try to find his name on the list there, and well, there he is, so we remove him. And we also do have James Palsland and none other than Steve Hughes. Well, Steve Hughes was not on the grid today, unless my memory serves me incorrectly, and in fact I will just double check that to make sure. And in the end, Hughes was not on the grid, so it means we've withdrawn all other names, and we also do need to withdraw the name of Cy Anthony as our administrator for the series. He's asked not to be included. So there's our names. Let's spin the wheel for our 3-month draw and see who the lucky winner is. And it is Stuart Reynolds who takes on home the 3-month subscription. We may not have been the winner today by a slender margin, but he did take the 3-month subscription off of Daniel Stasuk by just a small margin. Congratulations to Stuart. We then come to our 2-month draw, and as we do, well, there's some names we need to remove from here, and they do include, well, firstly, Jack Barker needs to be removed, as he was your round 1 winner of it. Round number 2, it was Simon Oldfield, who was not on the grid today. We also do have there Darren Sharples. We've got to find him on this list. And you have to bear with me, there he is, as he does get removed. Also, Simon Bamber does need to be removed from the list, as we do look for Mr. Bamber. There he is, as he does get removed. Also, Stuart Reynolds there. And we do need to remove James Connolly and Cy Anthony. Well, there goes Cy Anthony, and James Connolly is not too far away from being removed. There he goes. Let's spin the wheel and see who's your 2-month winner. And it's going to be Alistair Murray, just by a tender hook, who takes the 2-month draw. Congratulations to Alistair. Last but not least, ladies and gentlemen, we now have our 1-month draw. And, well, we have some names to remove here, including none other than Pavel Dolezal, who I do apologise there because I didn't actually remove him from the 2-month draw there when I should have. So, thankfully, we didn't get bitten by that. But I must remember that for next time. We also do have to remove there none other. Dolezal's been removed. We've also got to remove James Armstrong, not on the grid today, nor was, well, in fact, Christopher Bates was, so we remove his name. We also have to remove Cy Anthony, who did previously win it, but I think he's going to be given the prize back at the end of the season, although don't quote me on that, I may be incorrect. We've also got none other than Nathan Scott to be removed, and we've got Milton Tomlinson Dennis. And we've already removed Pavel Dolezal. Simon Bamber also needs to be removed. So there we go. The final draw of the day. Let's spin the wheel and see who takes it on home. And a relatively straightforward draw, that one. Alberto Grilli is your 1-month VRS subscription winner. Congratulations to all 3 of our winners, and of course they will be notified of how they can redeem their subscriptions by the UK Sim Racing admin team in due course. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, let's turn our attentions then to the provisional standings after 7 rounds. We begin then with the Drivers' Championship standings, starting with our Elite. And as we can see here in the Elite cars, well, it is a very interesting story because Daniel Stasuk's lead right now is looking to be unassailable, given his victory today at Interlagos. And, well, can anybody find a way to slow this man down? My gut feeling says it may be almost too late, because if results continue, he only needs 2 solid results in the next 2 rounds, and he may be your champion before our season finale. Paceworks Esports' Pavel Dolezal and James Powson will do everything they can to keep him honest. However, do keep in mind that Dolezal now will be locking in a 0 score at Interlagos, so he will not have any more drop scores he can use. Anything beyond this point, he's got to score every point he can. And with James Powson, meanwhile, he's put his 0 scores in earlier on in the season, and that's why he's holding on to 3rd by 5 points over Alberto Grilli. In Stuart Reynolds, we have a 5th place for the Fury Simsport driver as he continues to inch himself closer back towards the top 3, but only at 2 points behind him, Nils Bakaj for NJB Performance, who wasn't on the pace today after an open lap incident. Tobias Kruken sits in 7th ahead of Sam Derbyshire, only based on result countback, with the Sim Coach Corvette driver not on the grid today, but we hope to see him back in a week's time. And then Milton Tomlinson Dennis on 97 points. He really earmarks the break between the top 9 and the rest of the elite field, with 10th place being in the hand of Austin William Campbell after his return to the grid today. Simon Bamber sits 11th ahead of Joe Newman, with James Ibram, Andrew Fairley, James Armstrong, Casper Tunstead, Jarrett Lee, Michael Gray and Helder Gonzalez rounding off your top 19, all with points to their name, and with no points yet scored, Jan Duffner in 20th place. Coming to the Pro class, meanwhile, and here the complexion, it is very different, because we can see after 7 rounds that Ruben Berings leads by 13 points still. However, Daniel Shillcock's win today, that brings him just a little bit closer and enables him to jump ahead of Brecht Bearings by a single point. So Daniel Shillcock right now on the ascendancy, but can he continue to stay one step ahead of Ruben Bearings, or will we see the DDK with Race Anywhere driver make his way back ahead in a week's time at Road America? Brecht Bearings sits in 3rd place for DDK with Digital Motor Art, only a point behind, and it's a further 11 to Krista Halsoy, who wasn't on the pace today, and unfortunately not the way he wanted it to go whatsoever. Ryan Davis sits in 5th place on 114 points, 2 ahead of Casper Brotner, who inches closer, with Zander Hill in 7th on 88 points, only ahead of Giles Philippette and Darren Orkett based on result countback. Cy Anthony is in 10th for UK Sim Racing Price for a solid performance today, giving him a good haul of points. Best the rest of 11th is Nathan Foster ahead of Nathan Scott, with Matthew Sheraton only behind the Empire Motorsport driver based on result countback, and your standings are rounded off by Ryan Walker, Malik Bass and Christian Maltrek. Coming to the AM class, and well, in the AMs, the complexion here is all about the battle at the very top, and Sean Cranleigh-Swash, 2nd place today, but still a 2nd place that moves him further away from the rest of his rivals. Sitting now on 142 points to Neil Kenyon's 137, and Darren Sharples, a further 3 behind, sits in 3rd on 134. Sean Cranleigh-Swash has a small initiative at this point. However, it's not going to keep him safe with 3 rounds to go, that you can count on. It's a top 3 fight then for the championship glory, and in the fight for 4th, Jack Barker's win and bonus point today means that he sits comfortably 7 points ahead of Rob Windsor, with the UK Sim Racing Stuart driver a further 6 ahead of his teammate James Connolly. In 7th is Nathan Anstice ahead of Tom Weston, who we haven't seen on the grid as of the last couple of rounds. He's ahead of Simon Oldfield by 3 points, and then Daniel Pays sits in 10th. From the old duty car cars driver is Peter Duke in 11th ahead of Hendrik Zilke, who continues to move himself forward, having joined us as of round number 6, with Peter Cox, Matt Edmondson, Jeffrey Damon, Ryan Woolsey and Ashley Brooks rounding off your AM Drivers' Championship standings. Coming to the rookie class, last but by not means least in our Drivers' Championships, and here we can see Alistair Murray leads by 17 points over BJ Alvarez, with more points continuing to come his way. But do keep in mind that Alistair Murray, well, he has not missed a multitude of rounds, and therefore his scores right now seem to be coming on strong, as BJ Alvarez needs to refine that form that he had earlier on in the season. Luke Checker is a further, goodness me, 29 points behind, so it's a battle of the top two for the rookie title, and then Checker right now is fighting for third ahead of Christopher Bates, 2 points between them. A further 4 behind, it's a trio of Stuart Pearson, John Lee Jones and Alex Brown. The fight for third is definitely heating up, with Richard Jones a further 9 points behind for Slow and Steady Racing behind his teammate of Brown, but at the best part of 11 points ahead of John Davis the wrong stuff, who wasn't on the grid today and therefore locks in a couple of 0 scores. Dan Oliver Fott 6th in 10th on 73 points ahead of Steve Hughes, with Darren Giacovelli, Pavel Bruce, Simon Cheshire, Thomas Helmer, Simon Hartley, Reece Kitley and Martin Fernie completing your rookie standings. As for the top 15 in the teams, well, here we can see DDK with Digital Motor Art. They are your leaders, and they are leading now by only 3 points over NJB Performance. These two teams absolutely locked together. Let's not rule out Tractix Race nor Old Dudes in Cars. They're only 6 and 7 points behind respectively, and it's a further 13 to Pacework Esports, who today we ruined the missed opportunity to stay in the top 3 with Pavel Dolezal's early retirement. Slow and Steady Racing sitting 6th, only ahead of DDK with Race Anywhere based on combined result countback, with UK Sim Racing Hill in 8th, a point behind them. UK Sim Racing Price and UK Sim Racing Stuart round off the top 10, albeit Price really starting to form a gap from the top 9 to the rest of the field, but UK Sim Racing Stuart in no man's land. They're a margin away from the 9th place, but they're also the best part of 28 points ahead of Effect Simulations. Speaking of which, from the 11th place team, it's DWR with SimCoach Setups Red in 12th ahead of Pigeon Racing by a point, and it's Push the Standard and Fury Simsport who round off your team's Championship top 15, and only a further 3 points behind is Made for Racing moving up into 16th place as of this round. Alice, for your Challenge Cup, well, of course, we do need to consider this. Our top 15 in the Challenge Cup is as follows, and Ruben Berings still leads after 2 rounds. However, Sean Cranleigh-Swash and James Powsland, they are both only 2 points behind, with Luke Checker looking very strong at the moment in 4th place, down 56 points ahead of Daniel Shillcock and Alistair Murray, based on result countback, with a perfect score here today from Interlagos. Daniel Stasuk, he falls to 7th there, given the way it's gone over 2 rounds, albeit an important victory today, brings him back into the top 10, ahead of Stuart Reynolds, with Hendrik Zilke and Darren Sharples completing your Challenge Cup top 15. Nathan Anstice, he sits a point behind in 11th, ahead of Jack Barker, who's moved into 12th place with that big score, ahead of Casper Brotner by only a single point, and Brotner leading ahead of BJ Alvarez in the fight for 13th based on countback, with Rob Windsor on countback in 15th place and 42 points. However, he shares 42 points with both Krista Halsoy and Alex Brown, who are behind on countback, and that is how your Challenge Cup stands after 2 of 5 rounds. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, it is time for us to wrap up. Thank you very much for watching, and if you have enjoyed today's show and you're looking forward to plenty more racing here at UK Sim Racing as the weeks go on, well, you know what to do. Make sure to subscribe to our official YouTube channel. You've been tuning into it today, as that way you can stay up to date with all of our latest weekly broadcasts. But if you want to know more about the community beyond just the YouTube channel, we do recommend you go to our official website, and that website being at uksimracing.co.uk. And as the website appears on screen, there it is in its full glory. And well, it's an easy to navigate website, recently rebooted going into this season of racing. We tried to make it a straightforward website to access, and well, what you can see there on the homepage, you have all the latest announcements and broadcast information from the official UK Sim Racing Discord, which there's an invite link available to join there as well. And you can also go to live streams and videos on demand to catch up with all the latest videos on demand and live streams, not just from us, but also all the drivers racing in UK Sim Racing series. We also do have a partners page for our affiliates where you can get some absolutely awesome discounts, and also our Actives League page will tell you, I should say, exactly where you can join us to be on the grid and go racing on a weekly basis. So if you haven't visited the website yet, we definitely recommend you go to our official website at uksimracing.co.uk. But if you're more of a social media person, you can of course follow us on Twitter, now known as X, and that's at twitter.com/UKSimRacing_. We can find out similar information, particularly when it comes to announcements, and also stay up to date with all the latest trials and tribulations of the UK sim racing community. We'd also like to take a moment to say a big thank you to our title sponsor, and that is VRS.Racing. And well, as always, we're very grateful to be working with them. And established in 2016, the Virtual Racing School aims to help sim racers get faster through the provision of top tier software and hardware, which draws upon the knowledge and experience of both real life racing drivers and sim racing professionals. A VRS subscription, extremely popular with sim racers around the world, provides an intuitive solution for combining data analysis and coaching, which may be used by racers at all levels to take their racing to the highest level. Meanwhile, the VRS Direct Force Pro line of wheelbases and pedals offers the cutting edge in sim racing hardware, as used by more professional sim racers and real life racing drivers than any other brand in the world, including Formula 1 sensation at McLaren, Oscar Piastri. So if you want to get faster, be sure to head to VRS.Racing today to find out more. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, our attention's now turned to next time. 3 rounds remain. It's crazy to think how quickly these rounds are going, and in a week's time, we head back to the United States. It's the picturesque countryside circuit near Elkhart Lake in the US state of Wisconsin. It'll be Road America that welcomes our drivers in what could be mixed conditions there for round number 8 to 10. The racing will occur on Sunday the 17th of August, but we'll bring it to you as if it were live on Monday the 18th of August. So come join us then to see how the story continues, because right now it's anybody's guess how it's going to go over the remaining 3 rounds, as proven at Interlagos today. But with that, we have been UK Sim Racing. I've been your host and commentator, Paul TX141 Walsh, also known as Britain a Spit, depending on what media you follow me on. And until next time, remember to stay safe, stay well, stay smiling, and most importantly, like our drivers, ladies and gentlemen, remember to stay on track. Good night.